Hello and welcome to Lost Love Chronicles.
I had gone to sleep quickly, and the next thing I knew, Bobby was waking me for my shift. She said, "I'll let you sleep 3 hours. I don't want to wake Serena. This is the first real trauma she's been through. She needs her rest to be of any use tomorrow. I hope you don't mind. Wake us both at 5. I have it dark in the front room, so I can have the drapes open. Keep watch on the guys out there in the backyard. The back is vulnerable if someone really wanted to get in." The next 3 hours were a bit of a strain since I kept imagining hearing things. But I kept watch out both the front and back, along with the video monitors. I woke both girls at 5. They got up, showered, and dressed for the office. I still didn't have anything but the jeans and shirt I was wearing. Before we left, I asked Serena if she had her weapon. She checked in her purse, took out the lightweight Glock, dropped the clip to make sure the magazine was full, pulled the slide back to check to see if a round was chambered, and put the gun back in her purse. I looked at Bobby, and she rolled her eyes. I told her to wait a second. I went into her closet, pulled another Glock, 3 magazines, and a box of shells. I also pulled one of the new MP5's 2 additional 30-round magazines and a canister of 100 rounds. When I came back into the hallway, Bobby asked, "A little overkill, don't you think?" I grunted and added, "Think about the last few days, then say that again." We went out to the garage, set all of the alarms, and got into the car, with me riding in the back seat, and raised the door. Bobby used her radio to check with the 2 marshals in the car at the curb. They said all clear and that our chase vehicle was around the corner. I was busily loading the magazines for the Glock. I seated a clip, put a round in the chamber, checked the safety, and proceeded to load the MP5 magazines. I had just finished loading the first magazine and seating it in the MP5 when we passed what was supposed to be our chase vehicle. It pulled out after us. I looked up a second and did a double take. Bobby caught my double check and asked, "What's up?" "There's no marshal tag on the front of the car following us. Call the chase car and ask them where they are." There was no immediate answer. Then we got an answer. "We are just leaving the 7-Eleven at the entrance to the subdivision." Bobby said, "Oh shit." I quickly told Bobby, "Call the house car and tell them that we will be moving slow and to come up on us quick. Tell the chase car to set up a roadblock so we can pinch them in." Bobby was giving the directions I asked her to give, while I was stuffing rounds in the other 2 magazines for the MP5. The people in the car following us couldn't see me watching them as we were in a vehicle with absolutely black one-way windows. It was obvious they didn't have our radio frequency since they kept right behind us. Just as we rounded a bend in the road, we saw our guys parked across the road, standing on the other side of their car. The guys from the house were rapidly coming up behind the car following us. All of a sudden, the car following us jammed on their brakes. Our guys following them saw the maneuver in time to stop and back up. I yelled for Bobby to stop and back up a little to give the car behind us less room to turn either direction. I checked our guys blocking the road, and they were climbing back in their car to come to us. Bobby backed to within about 30 feet of the car behind us and stopped. I was thinking it would be a standoff, but I wasn't up for a long wait. I didn't get breakfast, and I wanted to get downtown. I lowered the window and pointed the Glock out the window at the windshield of the other car. "Bobby, tell our guys behind them to use their bullhorn to tell them to get out with their hands up or face the consequences. Tell them to count to 5 and tell our guys to get down." She used the radio to tell the men what I wanted. The guys radioed back, "What consequences? We don't have any consequences." Bobby keyed her said, "I think our guy is finished with playing, just do it." The guy with the bullhorn said, "I'm going to count to 5. If you're not out of the car by 5, you're not going to enjoy what happens. 1, 2, 3. Before he said 4, all 4 doors opened and 4 guys got out with their hands up, but all 4 were still holding weapons. The deputy with the bullhorn yelled, "Drop your weapons and lie on the ground. Do it now. Drop your weapons." One of the guys acted like he was going to put his piece down and get on the ground, but instead he leveled the gun at the car behind them even though he couldn't see anyone. I began firing and knocked the guy down, but could tell he wore armor. Another guy decided to fight, and I shot him and hit him in the neck. The first guy was trying to get up when one of the marshals behind us put a round in his head. The other 2 guys just stood there with their eyes closed, but their guns were now on the ground. The bullhorn sounded, moved to the curb, and lay on the ground, face down. "Do not move." As the guy on one side began moving, he looked into the car twice before moving. "Quick, radio our guys. Tell them there is at least one more guy in the car." The guys were starting to move when they heard Bobby and stopped. "Tell them to use the bullhorn. If they don't clear the car, we will destroy it from here. Get out of the car. We will fill that thing with so much metal you won't know what model it is. Now get out now." I grabbed the MP5 as I opened the door, switching it off safe and onto burst mode, ready to fire through the windows if needed. Suddenly, a guy jumped out from each side of the car, rolling and opening fire with full auto weapons at the vehicle behind them. Those compact machine pistols are wild and inaccurate spray, and pray. I returned fire, aiming controlled bursts. One of them went down fast. The other didn't last much longer, taken out by our guys up front. It ended almost as quickly as it began. I jumped out, MP5 still ready, scanning the area and making sure the shooters were down. I moved to the car behind us to clear it, 4 shotguns and a couple of scoped hunting rifles inside. They hadn't come to play. I walked over to the 2 guys lying on the ground, still alive, but barely moving. I leveled the MP5 at one of them and said coldly, "You know, I've always wondered what it sounds like when a skull cracks from a close-range hit." Then I let out a cold laugh. The guy looked like he might have lost it. I stayed nearby until both were cuffed and their weapons secured. Each of them had ankle holsters and a backup pistol at their waist. I looked down at them and said, "Too bad you didn't get to those. Could have been interesting." Then I added, "I think I'm getting used to this." One of the other marshals leaned in and told them, "This kid's taken out over a dozen of your crew in the last 2 days. He's not bluffing." Sirens started getting closer. I made my way back to the expedition. Bobby was already on the radio, calling for a cleanup crew and crime scene techs. She told them we'd need the tow truck again. As I got in, Serena asked, "Are you all right? You're acting angry." "I'm hungry. Damn it. And these a-holes are causing me to miss breakfast. See if we can leave here and get to the office. I don't think anybody is going to get between me and something to eat. As a matter of fact, how about an Egg McMuffin or one of those croissants from Burger King?" Serena got out and talked to the 2 sets of deputy marshals that were holding off the county guys. She came back and said, "They said to take off, but to remember to write up the incident report since Wild Bill Hickok here is doing most of the damage." Bobby chuckled and asked, "Are you serious? Do you want something to eat? Do you think you can keep it down? Hey, radio those guys and tell them to let the media photograph and film everything and everyone. Don't cover the dead guys. Let them take the pictures as they are, and to make sure they take pictures of inside the bad guy's car." Bobby did that and asked why. I answered her saying, "Let's begin to let some of these idiots know we're ready. These guys all have armor on, so they're professionals. It might increase the temperature a little, but I think we're ready. There may be a big payoff if I get gone, but it's going to be the toughest hit they ever make." After pausing a second to get another breath, "I'm starved and yes, I can keep it down. If I can eat an MRE while some sniper has me pinned down, I can eat a breakfast sandwich in a bulletproof fort." I busily reloaded my weapons in the back seat and sat back to watch the terrain. We stopped at a Burger King because it was first place we came to and did get a bunch of biscuits with sausage, egg, and cheese, along with some of those mini fried potatoes. We got some cinnamon rolls, a milk for each of us, and a cup of coffee each. When we were on the way to the office with something to eat, I had the feeling we were going to get to the office without any more trouble. We did. We parked in the garage in the open VIP spot. It was called that, but it was a secure spot that was open on all sides so no one could hide around it. I left the MP5 in the car, but put the Glock in my waistband. I'd have to remember to pick up a belt clip for it. Since I didn't have a jacket, all I had was a t-shirt framing my shoulder rig. You could see the Glock sticking out of my waistband, so I must have looked pretty strange. I'm sure several people did a double take on the guy with a cane walking between an Amazon and a nice-looking lady into the federal building. We held up our badges, and the 2 security people that were really Secret Service waved us through. We rode the elevator up to our floor. The 2 ladies with me greeted the receptionist, and we went into the main office. Serena did what she's been doing for years. She sat at her desk, put her purse in a drawer, and turned on her PC. She pushed some of her stuff around, arranged her phone just right, and smiled, probably thinking to herself, "Ready." Howard waved at us from his office. As Bobby and I walked toward Howard's office, the agents standing and sitting began applauding. It kept up all the way to Howard's office. Bobby and I waved, then ducked into the office to talk to Howard. The first thing he said was, "Christ, can't you guys just come to work like normal deputies? You've upset the media and a whole bunch of folks out in Carrollwood. They are bitching that we put a hazardous hiding place among good citizens." He chuckled and said, "The brass is still getting up, having breakfast, and should be here by 8:30 or 9. I told them you guys would probably be here early, but they are the chiefs, and we're expected to wait on them. Wait till they hear you had another incident on the way in. How many? And how many are able to talk?" Bobby said, 6 and 2. Howard looked at me and asked, "How many did you do?" 2, maybe 3. He looked at Bobby, and she said 2, probably 3. He nodded and said, "You know from your schoolwork that if you have an exceptional high kill ratio, they're going to retire you. They don't go by military or Marine rules. They think it's unhealthy to be that accurate or that you could be involved in that many incidents. Can't be helped. If I'm canned, I can go back to work for the employment people where I may still have a job." Howard grimaced, "Forget those people. We'll put you on airplane detail. Boring as hell, but very safe. It pays well, and the travel is great." He took a deep breath. "Go to your incident report real quick and bring it to me." You have to do them individually, you know. Now get before we have these guys up our butts. As we were leaving, he said, "Oh yeah, we put your clothes back in the penthouse, Chad. We brought a set to the office for this morning. We've rented the entire floor over there. That's where we stashed the brass. Bobby will be in the other bedroom in your penthouse, so plan on going for some clothes unless you want to go on a shopping spree courtesy of Uncle Sam." We went out to Serena, who had 3 separate incident reports already printed out. It had 3 separate versions, and mine was close enough to be damn accurate. I thanked Serena profusely and signed it. She said she would wait a while and take them into Howard. Bobby said, "Follow me. I want to get some different firepower for you." We went into the supply closet where she twisted and turned a combination lock and pulled open a door to a large gun safe. It was jammed with every kind of handgun you can imagine. She pulled a box out and checked it and pulled out a box of shells. She had chosen a Glock 40 caliber. It's actually not that much bigger than a 9mm, but the 40 caliber round has more powder and more penetrating power. She asked for my badge ID. She scanned it and scanned the serial number from the box on the gun. She handed me the gun and asked me to read the serial number. I did, and it matched. She closed the safe and looked through the stuff hanging up, coming up with a nice shoulder harness and holster for the big Glock. Her next gift was a belt holster she said I could use for a backup when I needed one. She pulled 3 high-capacity magazines from a stack and said, "Let's get you changed into something decent, then we'll go downstairs to the range and give this piece a test drive." Out in the office, we asked around and found that some of my clothes were in the locker room. One of the marshals took me to show me where. It took 10 minutes to dress and put on my new hardware. When I came out carrying my personal weapon, Bobby said, "Give it here. I'll keep it until you get a place to put it. We can leave it in the hotel. Give me the other Glock from the house, because that's checked out for there." She put all of the hardware into her purse, and we walked toward the door. We told Serena where we were going and headed toward the elevators. We walked into the range at 8 o'clock. The range officer was having some coffee. "Hey, heard you two were doing some target shooting. Glad you're here to practice." Bobby said, "I just gave him a 40. Give him some range rounds and let him break this thing in. It might be stiff." She turned to me and said, "Tear it down and clean it real quick before you start. That'll probably help a little. You can clean it again when we're done. Hey, Cap, give me some of those 40s too." I cleaned the piece and reassembled it quickly. If you know how to break down one Glock, you can do any of them. I loaded 3 magazines and put on the ear muffs. At the shooting position, I fired a full clip, hitting the target consistently, but all over the place. I dropped the magazine and took the gun to the range officer. "Do you have any other barrels for this thing? I think this one has a nick in it. The hits are all over the place." He opened a drawer while I was tearing the pistol down and handed me a new barrel. I slid it in place and locked it down. Back at the firing position, I slid a magazine in place after putting my ear muffs back on and began firing steadily at the target. 10 rounds right in the center. I dropped the empty magazine and slid another in, putting 10 rounds in a really tight group in the head. This was a sweet gun, light, easy to shoot, and very accurate. I was amazed a bad barrel got through the inspectors. For the last magazine, I pushed the quick targets. These targets become lit at random, and you have to shoot each one within the 1 to 1.5 seconds that it is displayed. The faster you shoot, the faster they light up. I went through the quick targets, hitting them all without any problem. I dropped the clip, laid the gun on the position counter, and began picking up my brass. Bobby came to me and said, "Jesus, you have to teach me to do that. That's uncanny. Where did you learn to shoot like that?" When I was in the Marines, especially during my time in Iraq, there were periods when we didn't have much to do. Some guys like to watch TV all day, but I preferred reading and practicing my marksmanship. I would train for 4 to 6 hours a day. When you put in that kind of time, your accuracy naturally improves. These days, I don't get to shoot nearly as much, but I'm happy to pass on whatever tips I can. It makes sense now. You were incredibly accurate out there. I assumed you were exaggerating when you talked about making clean shots, but you weren't lucky, you were skilled. I had her get into position and asked which stance felt most comfortable. She replied that she wanted to try shooting one-handed, like she'd seen me do. I told her, accuracy is more important than style. Let me see how you usually shoot. She used a standard 2-handed grip. I checked her form and adjusted her grip so she didn't have a finger pressing against the front of the weapon. Then I had her do a few dry fire drills, telling her to focus as if she were shooting live rounds. Instead of raising the weapon naturally and settling on the target, she tried to level it directly at the target and fired too quickly. I asked her to repeat it so I could see if the mistake was consistent. It was. I had her set the weapon down. Then I demonstrated how to bring the firearm up to the target without actually using it, just going through the motion. I walked through it a few times, then held up a finger and said, "Think of this as the trigger. Imagine gently squeezing it, not pulling." She mimicked the squeeze, though it still had a bit of a pull. I said, You'll get better and more accurate once you master the squeeze. Now pick up the weapon and try again. Focus on the motion and the squeeze. This time she was focused. The gun stayed level, didn't jerk upward, and her shot was clean. We repeated the motion and squeeze several more times. Okay, I said, let's try a live round now. Use the same movement we practiced, and remember to focus on squeezing the trigger. Bobby was completely locked in. She raised the weapon slowly, took her time, and when she was satisfied, she squeezed the trigger. The shot hit dead center. Wow, did you see that? A perfect hit. Let me try again, she said. We loaded another single round. She followed the steps again and fired. Another clean shot right in the middle of the target. This is easy. Why didn't they teach me this way before? Let me try a full magazine. I handed her a full magazine and stepped back out of the position so she could do it all on her own. She fired 10 successive rounds dead center where she aimed. She dropped her magazine and reached for another. I opened the door and said, now, all 10 in the head. I shut the door and watched as she put 10 holes in the head of the target in a nice tight group. She dropped the magazine and laid the piece down, smiling. She bent to begin picking up the brass. I opened the door and handing her another full magazine, said, here, one more, but do it single-handed. Square away at the target, then raise your hand, shooting exactly like you do if you had both hands on the weapon. She didn't look confident, so I told her that she was a natural and plenty strong enough to handle the 40 single-handed. She put the muffs back on and slid the magazine home and chambered around. She took a deep breath, raised the weapon, and began squeezing the trigger. She put 10 rounds in the target, 5 in the center and 5 in the head. The grin on her face was awesome. She dropped the magazine and put the weapon down before she pulled open the door and hugged me to her. Thank you, thank you, thank you. In 10 minutes you showed me how easy it is to shoot. I've got to practice more so it's natural, but I can do it. Now I won't waste so many rounds in the field. We picked up her brass, cleaned both weapons, put a fresh magazine in them, and I holstered mine while she put hers in a belt clip under her jacket. As we left, the range officer said, if you stay around here, I'd like you to give some lessons down here. I hear you have a technique to use when you're up against body armor. I'd like to see it. Word travels fast in a closed community like this. I smiled and nodded, not wanting to commit to anything for a while. We arrived upstairs at precisely 9 o'clock. Serena said our guests were on their way and called to make sure we were on our knees when they got here. Howard heard what she said and cautioned, remember, these guys do my proficiency report. Be nice. You, Johnson, and you, Bobby, go find an empty desk and look busy. I'll call you when they want to talk to you. Bobby and I took adjoining desks, and since the PCs were on, we both logged onto the department website. We went through the news about our local fun, noting that the latest episode had not made the site yet. Next, we both logged onto the local news channel site to see live footage of the scene still busy out in Carrollwood. The guys were really playing it up. The street had chalk mark outlines where the bodies had lain. There were little evidence markers everywhere. There actually couldn't have been that much evidence. Not that many rounds were fired. They even had 3 interviews, one with a deputy marshal, one with a bureau guy, and one with a lieutenant with the sheriff's department. Everyone was getting into the act. The news lady, who usually had a smile, had this serious look on her face saying, now the hoodlums in the area know that the officials would prefer not to take prisoners. Howard called me at that exact instant. Johnson, come in. Bobby, you better come in too. I went into the office and was introduced to a John Scott. The man was about 50 with gray hair, cut in a nice flat top. He held himself erect and had a good military bearing. I came in and stood at attention. He recognized the stance and said, at ease. Charlie Johnson, huh? A date of being sworn in last week. It has here you were sworn in to help in your protection as a person in federal protective custody. So you're the one who started the employment office fiasco, huh? I'm sure the guy knew what my tiny file said by heart, but he wanted to be dramatic. I'm told that you have volunteered for a couple of unusual assignments and have performed meritoriously. Do you enjoy killing? The shock value. No, sir. I defend with deadly force, not with enthusiasm, but focus on my team's safety. His eyes opened wide, and he said, everyone out of here. Everyone except you, Johnson. Now, everyone left Howard's office with flat top and me still standing. When the door closed, he reached out his hand and said quietly, Semper Fi. I nodded, but added equally as softly, Ura. He said, how long in Special Forces? 7 years, sir. I'm not a sir, neither are you. How long have you been out? You know the answer to that. It's in my file. You're right, I do. Sorry about your leg. Would you have stayed? Yes. Are you going to stay in the Marshal's service? I don't know yet. It depends on what is decided and if I live that long. I want you and you'll live. We're too damn tough to be done in by a bunch of money-grubbing cutthroats. The man paused, looking at me as if trying to see inside my head. One word of caution, Johnson, try not to kill everybody. I hear you had an incident this morning and allowed a third of the attackers to live. Good move. The service frowns on too many kills. As it is, you're going to have to see a shrink to make sure you're stable. Do you still get the shakes? Not usually. Good. That means you think clearly under pressure. I'm going to call the folks back in. They think I'm dressing you down for being so accurate with a gun. I know that it is training and that you are just protecting your unit. Please remain a deputy marshal. You will have a great future with us if you do. He said, sit, before he went to the door to call everyone back in. When everyone was back in, he asked Serena, who had joined us, how come you swore Mr. Johnson in as a regular deputy marshal and issued him an ID with a full security clearance? Serena said, I checked his military records with the Secret Service. His clearance is still current and is higher than what is required for the service. Mr. Johnson exhibited the values we want in the service, and if he were a full deputy marshal, I felt I could get him to stay with us. Good thinking. He took a deep breath. Howard has briefed us, and now we are going to interview the two men that were just brought in. We will not use your famous window technique because I want the bulletproof glass between the other buildings and me. I don't think we've ever lost a prisoner from being shot in an interview room before. There are a lot of firsts with this case. He turned to me and said, in front of everyone here, including the chief of personnel of the Marshal Service, I'm promoting you, Johnson, to sergeant with a notation of acting field lieutenant. Your pay will reflect the higher grade. Your promotion is not for downing so many perps. It's because of your military background. I can't have a lieutenant being commanded by a lieutenant. So Howard, you are hereby promoted to full commander, not major, but full commander. Serena, please make these new promotions effective as of 8 o'clock this morning. Now, if any of you have something to ask or say, do it now, as we have work to do. I stood, but Howard motioned for Bobby, me, and Serena to stay. The others left the office, shutting the door behind them as they headed for the interview rooms. What did you say to that man? He didn't seem to be tearing into you, Howard said. Sorry about my language, ladies. I said the only thing that made sense. He's also a Marine. He was in Special Forces too. He gets it. What does he understand? Howard asked. He understands that I don't take pleasure in killing, but I will defend my unit. Bobby added, that's similar to what you said before he sent us out. Is that something they teach you in Special Forces training? That is the second goal of a Marine on every mission. Our primary goal is to execute whatever the order is, but to always protect our unit. I was just protecting our unit. Howard said, perhaps we should send all our men through Special Forces urban combat training. But then DC would start calling this the Wild West office. He turned to me and said, thanks, Chad. Full commander is a very high honor. The man who was just in here is not a full commander. He is a lowly major. This was a special promotion and you are to blame. I blame you because the rank is too high for Tampa. They'll move me and I don't want to move. I wonder if my wife will like DC or Chicago. I doubt it. Bobby said, maybe the guy out west is retiring. You might be in line for that job. We'll see. I want you two to go get some clothes for Bobby, enough for a week, come back, check in the hotel, and come back to the office. An acting lieutenant has some extra responsibilities. You're in charge of showing him, Bobby. Does that mean what I think it means? Serena, make Bobby's promotion permanent as of this morning. And let's make sure the payroll gets really screwed up because I wish to address you as sergeant from now on. Now, just like the captain on Star Trek says, make it so. Now get, all of you, and be careful out there. You are to have a lead and a chase. Make sure our cars are armored like the expedition, just in case. The three of us left the office with shit-eating grins. Apparently the big shots had told everyone of the promotions they had handed out and gave me another hand. I just grinned and headed for the door, picking up my jeans and t-shirt on the way. Four guys followed us out the door. Bobby briefed the four on the way how we would go out to the house and made sure they had the max authorized ammo with them. The one guy said, we've checked out enough hardware to start our own regime. We should be okay. We could almost use a third guy in each car for eyes. Bobby stopped before we got to the elevators. Hey, it's not a busy duty day. I looked at the roster. Let's get 2 more men, just for fun. We should get to the hotel in time for a nice lunch. Come on. We went back and asked Serena for a couple more men. She checked the roster of available guys, and page 3. They happily came running. The alternative was getting stuck on an air marshal assignment that had them overnighting somewhere. Older, semi-retired, guys that missed a lot of work handled a lot of the air marshal jobs. The trip out to the house was event-free. One of the reasons was probably so many county sheriff's cars parked all over the neighborhood in the guise of speed traps. Bobby even said, perhaps we should reconsider and just stay here. As we stopped to raise the garage door, the extra man riding with us said, if they want you in the hotel, go. That place is easier to protect and closer to help. I said, I will miss the pool though. The guy looked at me asking, "Didn't you use the roof pool? It's exclusively for the penthouses. They even have a jacuzzi and small sauna up there." I didn't know, and I guess they thought that I didn't swim with my bad leg. Heck, swimming is better for me than that damn treadmill. The marshal said, "I'll tell all the guys to clear the pool area when they come on duty. That way you can just go up there." Actually, the only way up there is on the penthouse elevator or the stairs. There is a maintenance elevator for both the penthouse and the roof, but that's easily locked out. We even have a control panel with a visual of the elevator plus a video panel now. They installed it yesterday. The duty guy can see the lobby, the approach of each elevator, inside each one plus the door area for the stairwell on each floor below. Any movement on the penthouse elevator or any of the stairwells above the third floor activates an alarm. It's pretty cool and makes for a lot better security. I thought of Bobby's house and said, "We should ask for an auxiliary panel like you have, Bobby, so when the duty guy is eating, he can have the same view." The guy said, "It's done. We don't eat with many protective custody people, but since folks like yourself and a lot of dignitaries from the service stay there, they put a false wall up with an entire array. We don't leave them on though. They only come on upon demand." As she was driving, Bobby said, "We'll probably have them on all the time. I don't think I'll ever be as uptight as I've been. This has been intense. I can't believe there's been so many attacks." I saw the investigation notes from the Bureau. This employment fraud thing is just so huge. There are mob types all over the states that are upset over losing the easy money they were getting. We're putting a big dent in their income. Plus, we've been busting fake training centers in almost every state. A couple of them were even being used as narcotic drops. Your tax money at work, we provide the office space where they collect free money, divide up the dope, and distribute it to their carriers. Amazing that one girl not being at work regularly could cause this whole thing to collapse, I said, shaking my head. If the director had hired me as his assistant, no one would ever know. He could have corrected the problem with the girl, and the fraud would have continued. The duty guys at the house were using the family room and facilities. "Hey," one of them said, "this is good duty. These monitors are great. Anything gets close and a buzzer or beeper goes off. Even a stray dog set the thing off. I love the motion detector on those roof cameras. That makes the distant perimeter easy to watch." The other man there said, "If there is anything you don't want moved, let me know now, because this house is going to be empty by tomorrow. Your new place is being prepared right now, and they will move you en masse tomorrow. A group from the Atlanta office will be here to do the move." Bobby asked, "Do you have a floor plan for the new place yet?" The marshal opened a briefcase and gave Bobby a small floor plan so she could familiarize herself with it. Bobby commented, "Not much different, except it's bigger and there is more open space around it. I like the idea that there are even quarters for duty guys. No more going to the 7-Eleven for potty breaks either. We either use a jug or have a replacement crew come for relief." That was a real freaky thing that happened this morning, the deputy said before he turned to me. "How did you figure it wasn't us this morning anyway? I heard you were the one pulling the alarm. All of our vehicles and the bureaus have plates on the front of them. That one didn't." "Oh, not all of them do. Our surveillance cars don't, but they are more common looking anyway, like that Mustang you're driving, or at least we're driving. Anyway, that was good thinking and a good eye. Even if it had been a totally unmarked car and you didn't know it, you did right to confront it. There wouldn't have been any harm done." Bobby came out with 2 big suitcases and said, "That will take me through a week or so. I suppose I'll be spending more time in the office than usual, so that requires better clothes." She went back to the bedroom and came back out with 3 aluminum cases. "Let's pack up some hardware to carry along with us. Get the MP5 you have in the truck and the one behind the fridge." We broke down the 2 rifles and put them in the cases, with 6 extra full magazines each. In the third case, she put the Glock, plus another, and my 9mm in along with all my extra magazines, and 6 more. Bobby looked up and said, "That should take care of us. I like the idea of having a rifle in the truck with someone that can use it. I have a modification I want on the truck too. I want a sunroof with a flip-up Kevlar shield in all directions." Chad could have covered that car easily without leaning out the door or window. Hell, they've made that truck damn near bomb-proof. Might as well make it into a fighting vehicle as well. We loaded up the Expedition, radioed the office and the car out on the street that we were coming, and opened the door. The trip back was as uneventful as the trip in. Instead of parking in the garage, we went to the valet entrance and put our luggage on a cart. One of the agents took the Expedition, while we went straight to the penthouse elevator. I looked at the control panel as we were riding up and noticed one other button that had an R on it. I wanted to check out the roof. That might be a nice place to get some sun. We checked in with the duty guy and went into the penthouse. We carried Bobby's bags to the second bedroom. I went into the other bedroom, and there were all my clothes hung in the closet, cleaned, and pressed. I thought that it will be nice to have some clothes again. Too bad I lost the other suit. I had really liked it. Oh well, I knew where to get more. The agent who took the car came in, along with the other 6 that had accompanied us. I looked at the menu and gave it to them. They called the duty guy and asked him what he wanted. We decided on some of the hotel's monster hamburgers and chili. The order was made, and I checked to make sure the fridge was full of soda. It was, along with several bottles of wine that weren't there before. I pushed the button that controlled the panel over the bar. There were twice as many bottles now, and all of them were full. I guess they thought I might be a heavy drinker. The duty guy commented, when we said we were going to rent this penthouse permanently and rent the others for at least a month, they filled the place up. Our business is important to them, especially in the slack times. We're using all 4 penthouses right now to house the dignitaries that are here. I spoke up. I only saw the 2. Who else is here? The duty marshal answered. There are 6 others, 2 more from the service that are out in the field and 4 from the bureau. This is a big deal we're working on. So far we've arrested over a dozen involved in this thing. It looks like Papa Nardelli was the king in this area. It's just taking a while to find all of the offices involved. The DC people have all the addresses because they have been paying the rent. We're just raiding each one and collecting whoever is in them. We are also staking them out and pulling in anyone that comes in. We just take them all and sort them out later. We ate while checking out the new video wall. They had done a great job blending it into the decor of the penthouse. If it were rented out to a regular civilian, they would never know it was there, so the service's money was well spent. Howard came into the room saying, "How are the new sergeants doing? Did everything go okay?" I guess it did. I didn't hear anything. Bobby and I both nodded. You 2 will stay here at least a week. Bobby, your new place will be ready the day after tomorrow, but you're detailed to be Chad's personal duty person for a while. You don't mind, do you? Bobby grinned and shook her head saying, "Hell no. Watching this guy is pure luxury with a place like this." Howard cautioned, "Well, don't get too complacent. You know they blew the elevator here already, and I'm sure someone will try something at least once. We think the place is pretty tight, but some of these guys that are coming at us are good. They are smart too, so just be careful and be watchful. You've been trained for this. Use that training." He turned to me. "I have the entire training series on protection for witnesses and relocated personnel coming. I want Bobby to review it and for you to do the entire course. Use the PC here and log into our site. Bobby has the encryption key, so when you finish each module, take the online test. The guys will tell you, each major division class you ace means an increase in your base pay. With your extra time, you should be able to build your income pretty well. You've used your time well so far, keep it up. Even if you pull a rat on us and go to the bureau, these are cross modules, so you'll get top pay over there as well. Somehow I have the feeling we're going to have a hard time keeping you here. The boss fell in love with you this morning. You sure he's not queer for you?" That got a laugh from everyone. "Tonight, he's hosting a dinner for you and Bobby. Serena and I have been invited as well. I'm picking up my wife for this, so it's a major occasion. We're a good suit." "Oh yeah, we have replaced your suit with another similar to it. Man, that thing was expensive. You sure have expensive taste." I grinned. "Howard, as soon as we can, I'll take you to the place where I bought the suit. I got it for 20% of normal retail. I didn't even use up the entire clothing allowance I got from the employment agency. Considering the stuff you're wearing, I'll go with you." "Who turned you on to the place?" "I'm surprised you don't know. Our dear friend Ms. White. Her husband Reggie and Ms. White helped me pick out everything. When I go back to get more, I'm going to call her. The place is full of unsavory characters, but it is really the place to shop for good men stuff. I'll make sure all the guys know about the place. I'll even make sure that they go in not packing, so it's a more pleasant trip. I think the place is used to having guys carrying. I'd bet over half of the people shopping there were packing. Reggie had his, and when he tried his coat on the tailor, didn't even flinch. When he asked me if I usually wore a shoulder holster, Reggie told him, and that it would be on my left. That's why my coats don't bulge or look misformed." Howard added, "I guess it would be a good place for all of us to shop. We'll have the best tailored office in the district. Anyway, you 2 kick back this afternoon. You have at least 4 days coming for incidents. You know the service makes you take a day off after each incident. You had 3 yesterday and 1 this morning. When you need one of these, you can take them. I'm going to set up the shrink to come here instead of you going to her. When she does her interview, be kind. She's kind of a babe in the woods. I don't think she understands the real world is a little more violent than she thinks." Soon it was just Bobby and I. I suggested, "Let's go up on the roof and take a look at this pool they have. Since it's high, it might not be warm unless it's heated." We went to the duty guy, picked up the radio we were supposed to have in the penthouse, and walked up the steps to the roof. The door had an alarm on it that said that it would alert the world if we went through it, so we went back down to the duty guy. He laughed and said, "See this switch? If I turn it off, there is no alarm. If I turn it on, the world as you know it comes to an end. The elevator can't go there either unless I push this one-time button. Besides, see these." He pointed to 3 monitors. "That's the roof. When you're up there, if you want privacy, tell me and we'll shut them off. I can imagine that I'd rather skinny dip than use a suit. Bobby laughed. You've caught me too many times at home, haven't you? You know that's almost the only way I swim. Chad don't mind, and he's too much a gentleman to be ornery. You're a better man than I would be. The only reason I'd be good is I got a wife that does not share. She would alter my genetics, real quick, if you know what I mean. Bobby and I climbed the steps again and looked around. We sat in the chairs to check the sightlines. There were none while sitting, or if we were in the pool or jacuzzi that would allow anyone even with a very long-range sniper weapon to get a shot at us. I thought it would be good to get some binoculars or telescope to look around. I thought for a second then said, I'll be right back. I went down the stairs to the duty guy and asked to use his rifle for a few minutes. What for? You gonna shoot something? No, not going to shoot anything. I want to use the scope. I know you have these zeroed in at 400 yards, so I want to scan the sight lines up there to see if anything is compromised. Good thinking. He pointed to a knob on the side of the scope. Each click is a tenth of a click. You know, a kilometer. Go through up to a full click. I don't think there are too many bad guys out there that are proficient over that. As I was going back upstairs, I thought, 1,000 meters is what? A little over 1,000 yards? The longest shot I heard about was estimated 1,400 on a perfectly calm day. I'll check to a click. That ought to be enough. Bobby laughed when I showed up with the rifle. You don't miss much. They keep that rifle kind of hidden. It probably doesn't have much value at that duty station, but it is part of the equipment for any station. I checked the sightlines all around. There was the bank building nearby, almost as tall as this one, but even standing up near the pool, you couldn't see the top of it. Nope, the only way to access or see us up here is by helicopter. We should be fine. I wonder if there's a NOTAM, notice to airmen, filed for downtown Tampa right now. If there is, only military aircraft or law enforcement on a mission would be allowed. Curious, I walked to the side of the building near the federal building and looked at its rooftop. Wow, they had 4 heliports up there, and even 1 helicopter with federal markings. If we decided to take a swim, someone in the air might get an unexpected view. Aviators often see a lot from above. We sat on the roof, enjoying a few minutes of sunlight before deciding to head back downstairs. Bobby said, let's go across the street and check out the modules the boss wants us to review, and we both need to go over the rank modules. You'll need to go through ours plus your temporary field rank as lieutenant. Between you and me, Bobby, I said, I still follow your directions. You know the rules, I'm not proficient yet. You know combat though, Bobby said with a serious look on her face. I'll follow you anytime when we're under attack. You proved yourself more than once already. I looked up at her and said, you know, I think we should probably take a short nap before we do any studying. We would be a lot more alert if we were to do that. Oh no, you don't. I know that look. You don't have napping on your mind at all except what you're thinking of would definitely make me sleepy. I grinned. Well, it would relax us. Wait, Bobby admonished. Let's see what the day brings. Fooling around like that makes me too lethargic. Considering our tenuous situation, we might want to be more alert. Look what happened the last time we were almost having a good time. We told the duty guy what we were going to do, and he said, just tell me what you want. One of the guys will bring it over. The boss wants you two wrapped up tight today. He thinks there are people just waiting to catch us sleeping. We have some body-armored look-alikes for you too, going back and forth fairly often as it is. I laughed. Where did you find a 7-foot Amazon and a Crip? We didn't. We have a behemoth from Orlando. You know him, Bobby, the ex-wrestler. He's got a wig and is wearing a skirt. The only thing he's bitching about is your shoes, and that he had to shave his legs. I think the guy likes being dressed up. For you, Chad, we're using that new college kid we just put on. He had a hard time limping, so Howard whacked him with a cane like yours. He's limping pretty good now and needs the cane. Bobby and I cracked up, but we both wanted to see the pair so we could razz them about the duty another time. Our duty guy said, next time they come up, I'll call you. They have to start from up here and come back up when they come back, so if someone is watching they think they started from your penthouse. That's why we have all of the penthouses right now. The two of them stay on the floor below until this is over. They just come up here before they go and go back down after they get back. They are doing what you're going to do and what Chad did last weekend. Watch training videos. Bobby said, I'll call Serena so she can check them out as 2 of the modules have to be signed out by rank. Serena can check out anything. We went back into the penthouse and I said, you know what? Since we're not on assignment, I'm going to have a beer. I missed one yesterday that I was planning on having one, just like the drink I was planning on yesterday evening. Bobby said giving me a hug. Give me one too, but don't drink too much. You might have to be alert for what I have in mind for you later. Promises, promises, I said as I pulled 2 bottles from the fridge. There's probably some idiot with a plan to interrupt us later anyway. I'll kill him, Bobby said pretty seriously. I think I believed her. About 10 minutes after Bobby called Serena, a huge, almost a replica of Bobby and smaller bad copy of me came in the door carrying a box of videos. We chatted a couple of minutes before the guy imitating me asked me to walk across the room in front of him so he could watch me. I walked back and forth a couple of times, and he said, "Your knee doesn't bend easily, and your ankle doesn't at all. I'll tape up my ankle so it won't bend and put on a tight elastic brace on the knee that won't let me bend it easily. That'll make me limp a lot more like you." I said to the huge wrestler, "You're kind of cute, but it ruins it that I know you're a guy. Your chest isn't as nice looking as Bobby's. You need more padding, cutie." I ducked as he swung at me laughing. "You better watch out. You know us wrestlers all go both ways, don't cha? We like cute little guys like you." We all got a laugh, but his partner got a real red face. Wonder if ex-wrestlers and young college boys still go both ways. They left and Bobby was holding her hand over her mouth. When she started choking, I patted her on the back until she could control herself. "It's all over the office over there. Bronson, the ex-wrestler, does go both ways admittedly. Did you see the red face on that kid? I'll bet they are enjoying this hotel duty. They only make about 4 trips a day across the street, and the rest of the time, they have to stick to their room. Fun time in the Brokeback Hotel. Bad Bobby, real bad. You should be ashamed of yourself." "Can't help it," Bobby said, still laughing. "You teased the big guy, and his eyes got big thinking you were coming on to him. Then he teased back, and his partner blushed. It is funny, but don't ever say anything. People do what people do." We spent the rest of the afternoon watching rank videos. We needed to pass these within 30 days of our promotions. We watched both together, but I was the only one that took the lieutenant exam. It's cool the way the site gives you the grades back immediately. You're graded on correct answers, but additionally graded on the time it takes to complete the exam. Bobby explained that if it takes you a long time, then the computer assumes you were looking up each of the answers. Therefore, even though you might have answered all the questions correctly, you might still fail. Bobby and I both received 100% on the sergeant's exam, and I received the same on the lieutenant's. When that was done, Bobby said, "Let's get cleaned up for dinner. It'll be in about an hour and a half. They might call us early for a cocktail or a visit. Go tell the duty guy and get into the shower." I went out to the duty marshal, who was a different one, and he nodded. Back in the penthouse, I went to my room, stripped, and hopped into the bathroom. Bobby was standing in the shower, waiting for me. The shower was one of those big ones with 2 nozzles about waist high and 3 overhead. There was instant hot water, so we turned them on, adjusted the temperature, and proceeded to wash each other's hair and each other. Since the shower was so stimulating, Bobby ended up standing with her legs spread, bent over holding the wall, with me behind her making like I was a bronc rider balancing on one foot. Good stuff. We were both smiling by the time we cleaned off and dried each other. I told Bobby she didn't look too lethargic. Bobby disappeared into her room while I put myself together. I put on a nice dark suit with a colored shirt and tie combination that Ms. White had picked out. I looked pretty good, if I do say so myself. I went out to the living room to find Bobby coming from her room. I whistled. "Wow, you look gorgeous." "Jesus, you look good." She pirouetted for me asking, "You like?" "I like a whole lot. You smell good too." "I like that perfume. This is something Danny bought for me for Christmas a lot of years ago. You're the first guy I've worn perfume for, and I thought Danny would want you to smell it." We both were a little watery-eyed thinking of the donor of her perfume. "How about a drink? We might want to have a stiff one so we're relaxed with the big shots." Bobby said, "Good idea. Make us both a tall gin martini. That won't make our breath reek, and I love gin. Do they have Beefeater?" I looked to see what was there. "They have some British gin in a pretty bottle called Boodles and Tanqueray." She smelled the British Boodles and nodded. I put some ice in glasses and filled them with gin. I started to put vermouth in the drinks, but Bobby said, "I like mine as dry as it can get." You thought of the vermouth. That was almost not dry enough. The martinis had quite a kick. I checked the bottle to find it was 90 proof instead of the usual 40 proof of most gins. Strong stuff to be drinking about 4 ounces each. About the time we were halfway through our drinks, there was a knock at the door. I looked through the peephole before I answered it. Howard was waiting to get in. "Quick, get me something, preferably a gin martini, before we have dinner. Today has been Tension City." Before I could get his drink poured, there was another knock on the door. Bobby let Serena in. Serena gasped, "Quick, get me something to drink, anything." I gave Howard a stiff one, but gave Serena a much smaller one as she isn't that big and this stuff was potent. Howard looked at the size of our glasses. "Are you two drinking that much Boodles?" When I nodded, I commented, "I didn't know it was so strong until after I poured. I can't drink all of mine. Perhaps I'll finish it later." Bobby handed me hers and said, "Put mine in the freezer too. That should keep the ice cubes frozen." Howard said, "Just be yourselves. These guys haven't really been a pain in the butt, but they're still from DC, and you know what home office people are like. The upper echelon guys don't always relate to field people. We deal with the shit, and they just send out the toilet paper." We all laughed at Howard's joke. He put his drink down and said, "Let's go downstairs. We have a private dining room." He patted my chest and said, "First, go put your clothes on." I understood and headed to the bedroom for the 40 and my new shoulder harness. Bobby headed for hers also. I checked the magazine and realized that it really wasn't full. I checked to see how many rounds were in it. 10. I put them back and looking at the markings on the magazine, and it said, maximum 15 rounds. I pulled the box of extra ammo out and put 5 more rounds in the magazine and 5 more in the extra 2 magazines I stored in my coat pockets. Wonder why no one told me about more than the usual 12 or 13 for a Glock. Back in the living room, I asked Bobby, "How come you didn't tell me this had a 15-round magazine?" "I forgot. Yours is a full-size Glock 22, and mine is a 23. I used to carry the 27 that only carries 9 rounds. I prefer the compact because I usually have to carry it in my purse if I wear a dress. I only put 10 rounds in this one as someone said that if you carry a magazine full for too long, the spring wears out and the gun might jam. If you were a homeowner keeping a piece at your bedside, you would be right. But we're combat troops. We throw these magazines away every year or have them refitted with new springs." I looked at Howard to see if I was right. Or at least, that's what the military does. We are supposed to do that. "But you know, I never carry a full magazine either," Howard said. "I also carry a compact because it is lighter." "Well, I'd rather have the 15 rounds and one in the chamber. Thank you very much. That's 5 more rounds in a tight spot. Hell, I even ran out of the 30 rounds on the MP5 today. I heard there is a new 40-round magazine. We should look into those." "Okay, Wild Bill, this is really an unusual time. There's not as much action in the entire Marshal Service in a year as you've had in a week. The next thing you know, you'll be carrying extra magazines around." I blushed really bad. "You don't, do you?" Howard asked. I reached into my coat pockets and sheepishly pulled out a magazine from each pocket. "You're a good scout, Chad. Actually, considering what you've been through, I don't blame you. Most of us don't carry extra magazines unless we're going on specific duty. You do what you're comfortable with." We went downstairs to a nice private banquet room. The Big Cheese, John Scott himself, greeted us. He introduced us to the other DC people. The personnel guy said to Bobby and me, "I see you both finished your sergeant's exam and you finished your lieutenant's with hundreds all around. It's good to see sharp people out in the field." Howard was eavesdropping and smiled happily. Serena caught our eyes and winked at us. A surprise guest with us was Ms. White and Reggie. Ms. White was sitting next to Howard and his wife, with Reggie next to Metairie. When we were seated at the table, Deputy Marshal Scott had me sit at his right, with Howard on his left. Bobby sat next to me, with Serena sitting next to her. Several of our senior guys were here, along with a bunch of bureau people, including the agent in charge. We all had drinks. I noticed John Scott had scotch and water, so it was only coincidence that I had asked for that before he ordered his. He had corrected my order to be some expensive single malt stuff, and without water. It was too expensive for my blood, but really good. The dinner was prime rib and not nearly as good as Reggie's. I wondered what Reggie thought of the quality being served. Throughout the meal, the conversation was kept very light. When Marshal Scott asked me how I afforded such expensive clothing, I gave him the same story I had given Howard. Mr. Scott looked down at Ms. White and said, "You have impeccable taste. Thank you for directing our young man in his clothing selection. You're giving him some good habits." Ms. White thanked him and said, "It was a pleasure. I felt I should help him spend his special clothing allowance properly, and I wanted him to make a good public relations impression on our clients and prospective employers." Reggie was the one that already knew where to shop, though. "He just drags me there because I can put what should be worn together for him. You did a great job for Mr. Johnson. He's the best-dressed marshal in the service." After the very nice meal, John stood and spoke to the group. "First of all, Howard, please stand. The U.S. Marshal Service has many men that do great things and perform beyond expectations every day. Some perform that way for extended periods of time. Howard Smith has performed that way every day since he was sworn in so long ago. For his contribution to the service and this office, Howard is promoted to full commander within the U.S. Marshal Service." There was applause all around. I want you all to know that this lady next to Mrs. Smith was instrumental in hiring Deputy Marshal Johnson. We all know how lucky we've been to have him over this past week. Chad, Bobby, Serena, would you 3 stand? The 3 of us stood up, wondering what was coming. Mr. Scott handed Howard something and said, "For having the ability to act under pressure and under fire in a manner that expresses the traits of a heroic deputy marshal, Serena, the service presents you with the Legion of Merit Award for Courage. You are the first person within a clerical position to ever receive this award, as well as the first within clerical to be promoted to sergeant." We all applauded Serena as Howard pinned the medal to her suit coat. Marshal Scott handed Howard something again, then began, "For her quick thinking, courage, and heroism under fire, I award you, Bobby, with this Medal of Valor for performance of duty beyond expectations. Congratulations, Sergeant. Bobby was really smiling. This was the same medal her Danny had been awarded posthumously. Marshal Scott turned to me and said, "Be at attention." Then, very softly, he said, "Marine Charlie Johnson, for courage, heroism, and the performance in protecting your unit, you are awarded this Medal of Valor." He pinned the medal on me. "For your performance so far beyond what could be expected of you as a marshal, and that exemplifies the Marine Corps that you are still a part of, you are awarded this Silver Star. Congratulations, Sergeant Johnson." Semper Fi? As I answered "Ura," several men around the table enthusiastically gave that same salute. Marshal Scott stepped back and saluted. I couldn't help it. I returned the salute. He smiled at me and said, "Be at ease," then vigorously shook my hand. As the formal ceremony broke up, several men came forward to congratulate me, almost all saying, "We should have known. Only a Marine, Special Forces, too." There was a long meet and greet with some having another drink, but Serena, Bobby, and I didn't partake. When it was time, Howard radioed a duty person to take us back upstairs. John Scott said he would see us in the morning. Serena said she was coming with us, and we three left to go upstairs. Before entering the lobby, it was thoroughly checked with our guy staying in constant contact with the other duty people. Once we entered the elevator, we relaxed as it was programmed to only go to our floor. When it hit the third floor and stopped, there were 4 .40 caliber Glocks pointing at a bellhop with a cart. He almost fainted. The duty guy said, "I forgot about the room service kitchen. Come on, we won't hurt." The man warily pushed the cart into the elevator, and we proceeded to the top floor. The duty guy met us laughing, as he had seen the confrontation with the bellhop. "My bad. I should have radioed you that I had ordered." Who would have guessed he was coming up at that exact same time? "Sorry, guy." The bellhop wasn't too amused but said, "That was the scariest thing I've ever seen. Those barrels are huge when they're pointing at you that close." As the three of us were going in the room, Serena said, "I'm staying tonight. We're going to bed early, so good night." The duty guy was more interested in his food than us at that point and waved good night. We locked the double door and put the stops down. Bobby said, "I saw some Mai Tai mix. Let's have one of those when we've changed." "Let's see. Where were we the last time we were interrupted?" Serena said, "We were relaxing in the jacuzzi." Bobby went over to the patio door and opened it. She flipped a switch and we heard the blower motor of the jacuzzi out on the patio start up. "Last one and has to fix the Mai Tais." The two ladies raced toward Bobby's room, while I hobbled to mine. I took my clothes off and hung them up, preserving the creases and press. When I was stripped, I kept my leg on and used my cane to walk faster back to the open patio door. Both ladies were already in the jacuzzi. Serena asked, "Can you make them real tall, please, and make sure you crush the ice?" I didn't grimace, but I did grin. I was flopping in the breeze while they were in the jacuzzi. It didn't take that long to fix the Mai Tais. Let's see. First there was both light rum and dark rum. I think a shot of each. I opened the little cans of sweet and sour mix and little cans of pineapple juice. I set up 3 very tall Collins glasses and poured the light rum in first, added some creme d'almond and the triple section. Next was the sweet and sour mix and pineapple juice, then I topped it with some dark rum. I think everything I put in was about double because I used the big glass. I put some ice in a blender and crushed it hand scooping it into the drinks. I tasted one and it was decent. I found 3 straws and stuffed them into the drinks. I have to get 3 drinks out to the jacuzzi without spilling them. Oh well, I took 2 and made it out there without spilling any. I handed them to the ladies and went back for mine. Once on the patio, I took off my leg and the stump sock and swung myself into the tub. The 2 girls separated and helped me sit comfortably between them. Bobby reached over and handed me my drink, and we all took a sip. Bobby said, "Nice. This is the way to relax." I nodded in agreement. Serena smiled. "This is almost as nice as back at the house. But something feels off." I raised an eyebrow, curious. She reached over and gave my arm a light squeeze. "I guess I just need a little energy boost to really unwind." Bobby and I both chuckled. We settled in, chatting casually while enjoying our drinks. Before long, Serena seemed to be getting a bit restless. Bobby noticed and asked, "What's up, Serena? Still feeling a bit off from this morning?" "Not really," she said. "I just need to recharge, and I've got the perfect remedy. Would it be weird if I gave myself a little pick-me-up?" Bobby laughed. Before she could respond, Serena was already adjusting her seat and getting comfortable. Oh my, you were serious," Bobby said, leaning over to give me a quick peck on the cheek while grabbing my hand. I got the hint and held both of their hands, leaning back and closing my eyes as we settled into the moment. With the mood light and easy, the 3 of us were completely relaxed and enjoying each other's company. The 2 women helped me out of the tub, and I sat on the edge as they dried me off. I played with Bobby while they worked. Bobby picked up my leg and sock, then asked Serena to get our drinks while she put Chad to bed. Bobby walked me to the bed and left, likely to shut the patio door and turn off the lights. I hopped to the bathroom, balancing on one foot to use it quickly, then returned to bed to find Serena had placed the drinks on the nightstand. I motioned for her to join me, but she said something about using the bathroom first. Bobby came in, pulled back the bedspread and top sheet, and lay down, patting the spot next to her. I climbed into bed on my knees and leaned over to kiss her. Serena came back, and I smiled at her, pointing to the empty side of the bed. She looked at me and said, "This is so strange, but I really want this." "Bobby, don't judge me, please." Bobby replied, "What about me?" Serena responded, "You're a young widow. I'm just an older woman enjoying this time with a younger man." As I was drifting off to sleep, I felt Bobby's lips on my neck and ear, and she whispered softly, "I love you." I woke up suddenly, feeling like I had heard something. I looked around, but it was almost 5:15 a.m., so I knew I needed to get up. I slipped out of bed and grabbed my cane, which was resting on a chair, as I noticed a shadow at the door. Without thinking, I pulled out my Glock and shouted, "Hey!" A flashlight turned on, revealing a man's face covered with a stocking. I fired 3 shots, knocking him backward, before taking a moment to aim and shoot him in the mouth. Both women were now getting out of bed, turning on the lights as the duty officer burst into the room. I said, "I took care of it. Go back outside for a moment while I get dressed." He left, and I turned to the girls, both of whom had been on the floor. Serena, her face red, said, "I don't think he saw me under the bed." Bobby responded, "I don't care if he saw me. That scared the hell out of me. How did he get in?" I had an idea and quickly put on some shorts before hobbling over to the patio door. The duty officer was examining a hole next to the lock. I told him, "Hurry, check the roof for a helicopter. That's the only way he could have come in unless he climbed the building. Turn off the door alarm, but hurry." I quickly slipped on my sock, strapped on my leg, and made my way toward the elevator, shouting, "Watch that patio door. I'm going up to the roof." John Scott and a few other marshals were rushing toward the penthouse as I reached the elevator lobby. None of them were armed. I stepped into the elevator, pushing John back, and said, "Go arm yourselves and check on everyone. Make sure everyone's okay." I pressed the button for the roof, and when the door opened, I could feel the rush of air from the helicopter blades. I ran toward the noise to find a small single-seat helicopter sitting on the roof, with an open cockpit. I looked for the off switch on the tiny engine and shut it off. The marshal that had come up the stairs said, "There's a rope down to your patio. The motion alarm didn't go off up here." Jesus, I'm sorry. I didn't notice any activity on the monitor. No harm done. Let me get back downstairs and put some clothes on. This place is going to be crawling with people. I went down in the elevator and met everyone from the floor at the door. They all were talking at once. I said, "Go up and look while I get dressed real quick." As I went to the room, 4 guys were following me. I just shook my head and had to say as they all bent down to the dead guy, "Don't touch the crime scene. Go call a cleanup crew. Come on, act like deputy marshals. You know what to do." John Scott was standing at the door, smiling at me. As the 4 guys left, he pulled the door closed, with him out in the sitting room. I slid off the shorts and found my jeans and t-shirt. I put on my sock from the night before and the other shoe. After putting on my shoulder rig, I brushed my hair back and finally took a leak. When I opened the door, Bobby was in jeans trying to keep the DC people's hands off the patio door. I looked at John and said, "Haven't these guys watched any crime scene videos or had any training? They're like a bunch of kindergarten kids." John hollered, "Get away from the door. If your prints are on the damn thing, how are we going to match the bad guys?" They looked sheepish and backed away. I asked them, "Why don't you guys call for a whole bunch of coffee and ask them to bring up about?" I counted heads and figured at least a half dozen more. Breakfast for 2 dozen ought to do it. One of the men said, "We can't order that." Serena went to the phone and did her thing. Bobby said to me, "Let's shake this guy down real quick. He's got gloves on, so there aren't going to be prints. You know you ruined the carpet. Don't you know how to shoot someone without making it so damned bloody?" John was laughing at Bobby and said, "I'll bet he did body shoot him first, but found the guy had body armor on. His training says headshot, and he did. Good job, Chad." We went through his pockets, finding only a hotel key card. I turned and handed it to John and said, "Get this to a team quick and have them tumble the room." He left quickly to get it done. Bobby asked, "Do you always boss around the U.S. Deputy Marshal in charge of field officers?" It needed to be done, so he did it. If he wanted me to handle it, he would have said so. He didn't give it to one of the field officers because he knew it had to be done right away. What do you want to bet he had the duty officer radio downstairs for a team to grab a car while he rode down? As soon as John sees the team leave, he'll be back up. Bobby asked, "How do you know that?" "Training." She replied, "Damn good training." I said quietly, "The man was obviously special forces, and not that long ago. He knows how to command and how to work as a team. When others mess up, He goes around them and uses those who know how to move. Bobby said as she was finishing up with the guy's pockets, "We should have that type of training. It wouldn't hurt. Let's get out of here and shut the door before one of these guys loses it from the sight or the smell. Let's wash up. You go out first. I'll take a quick shower and get ready for the day. Send Serena in when you go, then you can head in. I'll be out in 5. I got a quick shave, took a shower, and dressed in jeans and a t-shirt, but tucked my Glock into my waist. When I entered the sitting room, the food had arrived, and the others were quickly eating while keeping an eye on my bedroom door to make sure the deceased didn't somehow come back out. John handed me a cup of coffee, holding a radio in his other hand. I grabbed this from one of the guys in the team heading to the motel. They are supposed to radio me as soon as they get there. Nice wake up, huh? I grinned and said, the damned alarm bled all over the bedroom too. We laughed. One of admin types suddenly looked sick and was holding his mouth as he looked around to see where he could puke. I pointed to the patio and yelled, "Do it over the side of the building so I don't have to smell it." John said, "Let me get these guys over to my room." He turned to the group and said, "Leave one of those coffee pots and 3 meals. Now push the carts out of here to my room. All of you, let's go before another of you gets sick." They at least followed directions and pulled 3 meals from the cart and left a jug of coffee. Serena came out, got her coffee, and sat down saying, "Damn, this morning excitement makes me hungry." Bobby laughed. "Being around Wild Bill here is making us immune to this stuff. How did you wake up anyway?" "I don't know. I must have heard something in my sleep. I was waking up and thought I heard something, but I blew it off. I was heading for my cane on the chair when I saw a shadow at the door. I grabbed my gun and yelled. When the guy's little flashlight came on, I saw his face was covered, so I started shooting. I'm surprised he didn't have one of those Glocks with the light and infrared, or even night vision. The guy was innovative to have that little helicopter. Wait till you see it. It is really tiny." As she was eating, Bobby said, he left his glass cutter on the patio. He was prepared as if he knew the layout in here. His rope just barely comes to the deck out there. He had measurements and everything. The cleaning crew arrived. They immediately went to the door I pointed at, and they began taking photos outside. When the photographer was back inside the sitting room, he took pictures of the patio door. He came to me and said very softly, "Go pull the spread up over the bed and pillows." No reason to show who was in the bed. I smiled as the guy winked and went to pull the spread up over the pillows. I even fluffed all 3 just to be safe. He came in smiling and took his pictures, put the camera away, and began going over the body. "Sneaky scumsucker has surgeon's gloves," he said, as he took a glove off and pulled a fingerprint kit from his box of toys. I left him to do his job, as he would be a while. Others were checking all around out on the patio, while 2 went upstairs. Howard came in the door. "Christ, can't we keep you in a protected hotel without you getting into it? Did you kill somebody again?" John came into the room at that second and said, "He neutralized an attacker. Make sure you use the correct term when you write up your incident report, Chad. The guy just happened to die while you were neutralizing him." Howard laughed. "It's a damned good thing it's you up top, John, or my boy here would be shown the door." "Yeah, I know," John said. "The former regime didn't like dead people. They thought we should capture people while they were shooting at us." "Did this guy fire his weapon?" I said, "Didn't give him a chance. When he turned on his light, I saw his face was covered and made the decision he was a hostile and took care of it." "How many rounds did it take before you realized he was wearing armor?" I blushed. 3 in a quick burst. I at least had him standing up by then. John laughed. "Just like the book, 3 quick ones, and a decision." "Good job." Howard said, "You 2 talk your own language, don't you?" John said, "It's the way teams are. You protect your unit. You make decisions to protect your unit. You consider yourself the last man standing, regardless, and fight that way." Howard was obviously impressed by his boss. Serena said, "If you guys don't need me, I'm going to the office. I'll get my incident report done." She said to Bobby and me, "You 2 do yours as soon as you can. Send it to me in an email. See you for lunch." John said, "There's breakfast in my room if the guys left anything. If not, I didn't eat yet. We'll go downstairs and eat together." Another group of CSI guys came in with a stretcher. Another guy came in wearing a flight suit. I asked him, "Are you going to fly that thing out of here?" "Hopefully. It's probably AG, one that the guy either built for the job or stole. I'll take it over to our building so we can go over it. Those things only hold a few gallons of fuel, so it didn't come from very far." "Where is it?" "On the roof." "Yeah. You should probably go up the stairs. See the duty guy in the hall and make sure he got something to eat." The pilot came back and said, "He didn't eat yet. Order him something." I called downstairs and ordered 3 more breakfasts, some milk, and a lot more coffee. I noticed that Bobby didn't eat hers either because it was cold and greasy. While we were eating with the duty guy, 2 people wheeled out the dead guy, and a guy went into the bedroom with some kind of carpet scrubber. 2 maintenance guys wearing U.S. Marshal coveralls came in and began working on the patio door. I said to Bobby, I thought that was bulletproof glass. It is. It can still be cut with special tools. That guy had them. How did he know about the bulletproof glass, I wonder? The radio crackled, asking for safe one. Bobby answered, safe one. Gold mine at the motel. We're bringing in guests and goodies. See you in about 45. The phone rang. I answered and Howard said, you just got the call. Tell the other pair to stay indoors for a while, and you two come over. Be careful, and check the street real good before you cross. I laughed, saying, okay, Dad. We'll look both ways before we cross the street. Cool it, kid. You know what I mean? He still had a smile in his voice, so I knew he was okay with joking around a little. I went out to the duty guy and told him to call the pair on the floor below and tell them to stay put for a while. You'll contact them when it's time to do their imitation. He grinned, like they need having more time to lay around. Did you notice how both of them are walking bow-legged? If the kid didn't have to fake a limp, he would be walking with a cane anyway. That big guy seems to be doing a newlywed babe imitation. Be nice. They're doing what they are supposed to. They have to entertain themselves some way. Right, he said, shaking his head. I changed into some of my new slacks, a neat dark shirt, and a good-looking sport coat. The mirror told me I looked good. The big 40 felt good in the holster under my arm, too. The maintenance guys were almost done in the sitting room, but said they were going to give the carpet one more shot with some special dissolving material. Actually, you could hardly tell where the blood spots were. We told them to check with the duty guy when they left, and the housekeeping staff would be by soon. We relayed the info to the duty guy and had him called downstairs to advise them that Safe One was on the way with the guest. We checked the video screens and took the elevator down. We checked the lobby and the restaurant while heading to the door. The doorman held open the door, and the duty guy with Bobby went out on the street looking up and down. Bobby waved her hand by her side to indicate I should move with her. The three of us walked across the street with me in the middle and went into the federal building, flashing our badges. As I went through the metal detector, one of the guys asked, are you trying to get a quick rep? If you are, you've done it. Even one of our bosses was calling asking if you might be a candidate for number one duty. I looked at him with a question on my face, and he said, you know, White House. I hope you told them that I was a cripple and wouldn't make the grade with those guys. Nope. Told them that you were the talk of the firing range too. They'll be calling. You can bet you'll never see duty like this, guarding a federal building. Why are you here then? I asked. Easy. Started off working clearances and pissed off some interviewees. The money is too good and my wife loves Tampa. I'm already 5 years past minimum retirement time. I'm good for another 15, and this is a no pressure, no danger job. With you around it might be more so, but you won't be here long. Hot shots are always kicked upstairs quick. Bobby waited till we were on the elevator. I knew those guys were Secret Service. He's right though, hot shots always get kicked upstairs quick. I have something to say about it, and I'm still an employment agency guy trying to match fresh out military guys with jobs. Sure you are, like Scott is going to let you go? Once in the office, we joined the others in waiting for what the team was bringing in. Howard said, the Bureau sent a team out with ours, and it was apparently needed as they called in for a cleanup crew and had 2 for the Sawbones. All the good guys are okay. They said you would want to be in on the interviews, though. There was a commotion in the reception area, and 10 guys were on it in an instant. 5 guys in cuffs were pushed through the office. 4 went to interview rooms, and 1 was taken to a desk where he was told to sit. I recognized the guy. I knew him from Special Forces training. He was a TI, a training instructor. He was looking around, and I thought, not very smart to leave a guy like that by himself in an open room. He sat quietly, though, and kept looking around. He didn't recognize me, but that was understandable considering it had been several years and several hundred men since I saw him. One of the Bureau guys came out and uncuffed him and gave him a cup of coffee. John Scott came over to me and said, recognize that guy? I nodded. He's been undercover for the Bureau for almost 3 years. This was a lucky break. He can get off undercover now without breaking the chain. We have 2 more guys in the same bunch, but they are out west. John said, come here. John introduced me to the guy and said, remember this guy? If I take off his longer hair, he does look familiar. About 4-5 years ago. You out and working for these guys now? I whacked my stick with my cane and said, the Corps said I had to be a civilian again. Actually, I may only be temporary here. John said, this is the guy your crew was sent for. Now do you understand how those guys have lost so many men? Holy shit, they would have had to send 20 or 30 and still get lucky. Shit, you don't send someone after a troop after he's been in several years of combat. They're too salty, too aware. Christ, this guy is probably still seeing men with towels on their head. How come you didn't come to get us today? There wouldn't be so many in the interview rooms, that's for sure. I played chicken and hid under the bed while the shooting was going on. The idiots I was with had no lookout, no guard. They were caught completely unaware. Most of your guys can't shoot for shit. I'll bet they must have fired a couple of 100 rounds to down 9 and wound 2. The other 3 guys you brought in with me were under the bed with me, pissing in their pants. You happy to be through with undercover? Yes and no. I lost my wife a few years ago to cancer, so I left the service since they wouldn't send me to a combat unit. The Bureau offered me a position and I immediately volunteered for the undercover assignment. It was easy to make up my background. We used my real name and my real background. I just failed to tell them that I was working for the good guys too. John said, "You know what? Enjoy life, find a new life and a new way to do things. You've had enough time to get over losing your wife. Or should I say the rough days are over? You'll never get over losing her. At least now it isn't as important to try to join her. You're right. I'm ready to join society. Maybe even go back to training crazy kids that want to play cowboy. See, I did well. I made this one worth his salt." "You sure did. Sarg, you sure did. Thanks." He winked and said, "Semper Fi." John and I both said, "Ura." I started to walk away, but stopped and said, "You know you could transfer to the Marshal's service. You would make one hell of a protection guy." He smiled and said, "I would, wouldn't I? What do you have different here than the Bureau? No undercover, and you get to travel if you want to do air marshal work. I think some of the bad stuff is chasing down escapees, but it's probably like chasing down those idiots we were chasing in Afghanistan the first time there." The man sitting said, "Hell, that was fun. I love chasing those guys. They always thought they could outsmart us, and we always found them. You're right. It might be more fun here." The Bureau chief heard me talking to his man and said, "I ought to be mad at you for trying to steal my guy, but he's just come off a long undercover assignment." The Bureau would shit on him anyway because they don't think a guy that's been undercover that long can adjust. That pissed me off. It did John too, as he was starting toward us. I said, "Your people don't know a Marine and don't know Special Forces. They work right up until they swallow their weapon or they can't do anything but. It's ingrained in how we think, how we live, and how we die." The Bureau chief said, "Hey, I don't make the rules. My guys are smart, college-educated lawyers or other forms of professionals. We try not to get our hands dirty." The guy in the chair said, "Thanks for letting me know." He turned to me and said, "Okay, Troop, where do I apply to switch jobs? Come on, let's get you signed up, then we'll get you cleaned up and some good clothes. I want some stuff like you're wearing. I like your look." "Okay, we'll do that in a few minutes. Come on." I called to the Bureau chief and asked him to come with me. He did, with a docile look on his face. We went out to Serena, and I said, "This man is transferring from the Bureau to the service. Can you do the paperwork for him, swear him in, and get him a clothing allowance if he's eligible, so we can go get him some clothes? The Bureau chief will sign off, and John will agree with me. That's for sure." Serena said, "As acting lieutenant, you can hire anyone you want. How will you start him out?" "Well, he has some seniority time for his time in the military and his years with the Bureau. Give him whatever that adds up to." The guy stuck out his hand and said, "Thanks, you just did me a great favor." Serena looked up at the guy and looked shocked. "Dave? I thought you were lost overseas. What is it, 10 years ago?" "Nah, we were just on a long mission that got longer. All the home folks had me written off, but Julie knew I was okay." "And how is Julie?" "I heard she was fighting cancer. I lost her about 4 years ago. It's been hard. That's why I got out." Serena got up and gave the guy a hug. "You come to work here, and I'll take care of you." She sat back down and asked, "Okay, I need your address." "I don't have one." "Serena, I've been undercover for a long time." Serena looked at the guy. "Okay, Dave, we'll use mine for right now. Mom and I have 2 extra rooms, and you just moved into one." Dave had a happy, satisfied smile on his face. "Thanks, Serena, that's really swell." I gestured toward the chair beside her desk, then walked out with Bobby. John followed behind, saying, "Nice work. That's how you bring in solid people, recognize talent, and move fast." Howard caught up with us and asked, "Who's the guy you just brought in? Or did you just snag him from the Bureau?" I replied, "He's been deep undercover for years. You know the toll that takes. He's a Special Forces Marine. Honestly, anyone would want someone like him." Howard smiled. "If you hadn't asked him, John would've. Come on, let me show you what we've got." Back in the interview room, I spotted someone else I recognized, one of the hotel bellhops. He was the one who'd been forced to return that cash to me. I asked if I could toss him out the window. The guy looked like he might panic on the spot. John warned, "Wait until I leave before you do anything, but make sure you let him talk first. I don't even want to hear it. I just want him gone." I pointed at the Marshal and Bureau agent questioning him and said, "Call me if he clams up." I wouldn't mind seeing him land in front of his hotel. Bobby and I left and went into the evidence room. There were complete plans for the penthouse area, height of the building marked on the roof area, and even the local FAA weather number and website to get information on winds aloft. They would need it for that little helicopter. There were notebooks with all sorts of information about the safe house, and even some notes on ways to attack it. The ones they listed had failed. The note about the guys leaving their station to go to the 7-Eleven failed. All the snipers failed. They had 3 different scanners, but none had the service's bandwidth. It was a classified frequency area and was not readily accessible. Howard and John both had something to say, but Howard spoke first. They probably have more people that they might send, but we're putting so much pressure on them in their own backyard, they may write this area off. I'm hoping. This was a big group of guys. According to the motel, there was originally somewhere around 25 to 30 guys, not including Nardelli's men. Since we've accounted for all of them, you should be a little safer. We'll keep our ears out there and know when they're sending someone in. John said, I want you to stay in the hotel where we can watch you. Now that we know of a vulnerable area, we'll put better motion detectors out on the patio for when the doors are locked. Anything happens out there, the duty guy's alarm will go off right away. We're checking to find out what happened to the sensors up on the roof. You should put an alarm in the penthouse too, so I'll know. For you we can. If there was a regular protection assignment, we wouldn't want them to know. We're going to block off some rooms on the floor below so no one can go up either. The hotel will only charge us when they are full. I think it'll work. We were too confident that no one could get up to the roof. Now we know, so we have another camera and full perimeter surveillance alarms up there. We learned from our mistakes. Howard added, if it looks like the world is calming down, I'll send you 2 out to the new safe house. It's really nice. I know you'll like it. Meanwhile, enjoy the luxury of the penthouse. Now go back to the hotel and hole up. Tell your imitators to come over in an hour or so if they can get off their knees or out of bed. I frowned and said, be nice. He laughed, okay, I'll be nice. John had a questioning look on his face. I just said, an inside Clinton joke, sir. Sure it is. Keep it that way. Don't ask, don't tell. Howard, Bobby, and I all laughed. Bobby said, the man is sharp, isn't he? Probably has something to do with being my boss. When we went out by Serena's desk, she was still with Dave. I suggested, when you have him done and sworn in, call Ms. White and have her meet you at this place. I wrote the name of the mart and the address on a piece of paper. She'll help you pick out clothes. When you're done there, take the man to Walmart for underwear and socks, then take him home to get settled. Tell Howard what you're doing, and I'm sure he will agree. Before you go, though, check him out a piece like mine, so they will fit the jackets right. To get over there with the piece, take one of the linen jackets you have in there for undercover. That way he won't stand out so bad. I shook hands with Dave. He stood up and walked me away from the desk. Do you know that Serena was my first crush? We seriously dated for a long while. When I went into the service, she started going out with some other guy, and that's how I met my wife. She was Serena's friend back then, and was until we moved away. Now look what you did. You not only brought me home, you gave me back my first girlfriend, and I'm even going to be in her home. Thanks, man. Enjoy the service. It's a good group. Study the videos, and you'll go up fast, I promise. Bobby and I left. We radioed over to the hotel, and the duty guy came out and walked over to get us. We checked every which way as we walked back to the hotel. Upstairs, we had the duty guy there call the imitators and tell them to go over in about an hour. The duty guy said the penthouse was clean as a pin and even more ready than ever for us. They even put a motion alarm for the patio and roof in the penthouse for me. We walked in and decided to have lunch sent up. It was decided to have some shrimp scampi, so I went back to the duty guy and asked what he wanted. He said he had already eaten and thanked me anyway. I asked him if he wanted a Coke or anything. He said, I have a coffee pot, a mini fridge, and even a small john. This is a neat job now except when the subject starts shooting in the penthouse. We both laughed as I went into the suite. After lunch, we had a choice: get some sun and swim, take a nap, or study some videos. Bobby stretched and said, let's take a nap. We didn't get much sleep last night. We did take a nap, a short one, after a long bit of exercise. We worked, or rather studied, till about 3 and decided to go exercise. I told the duty guy, and he called another guy to come up and escort us to the gym. Bobby and I worked out for about an hour and a half and decided we needed a swim. We went up to the roof, stopping for some towels and checking in with the duty guy. He said he would shut down the cameras up there for us. Bobby said, if you can stand to see my bod, look all you want. If this guy gets frisky, turn it off. The guy laughed and told us to enjoy. We swam and had fun putting lotion on each other. I noticed the light was off on the camera, but that didn't mean another might be on. We were satisfied, so we just enjoyed the sun. About 5, we put on our sweats and went back to the penthouse to clean up for another formal dinner. By 6, we had guests drinking in our penthouse. Serena and Dave, who was in new clothes, came and both of them were smiling in each other's company. Dinner was a good steak and good conversation. The only announcement was welcoming Dave to the service. When dinner was done, Serena asked if she and Dave could come up with us. As soon as we were in the penthouse, Bobby winked at me and said, make us a bunch of Mai Tais. We'll be right back. They went into Bobby's room. Dave asked me if I knew what was up. I said, I'll bet they will be bare-ass naked out in the jacuzzi in just a few minutes. No way. I smiled and nodded, getting to work on the Mai Tais. I had just finished crushing some ice and made 4 tall, strong drinks when Bobby and Serena came out in robes. Bobby said, "We're heading to the hot tub. Dave, you can change in my room and meet us out there. Don't forget some towels." Dave looked at me and grinned. "Think tonight's going to go well?" I chuckled. "Better than well. That woman's been waiting for someone like you for a long time. Funny how life works sometimes." I went in to change clothes, leaving everything except my pistol and radio behind. I kept my prosthetic on until I got out onto the patio. Wrapping a towel around myself and another over my shoulder, I stepped outside. Dave wasn't out yet, so I placed the gun and radio within reach and removed my leg. The girls helped, and Serena was in a playful mood, joking as she helped me balance. "Save the energy for Dave," I laughed. "He's probably already overwhelmed by you." She grinned. "Well, I hope he's ready. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time." Bobby raised an eyebrow. "You're really fired up tonight." Serena nodded seriously. "I never would have approached him while he was married, but now that we're both free, I want this chance." She looked at me. "Chad, you don't mind if Bobby takes the guest room and I stay in hers with Dave, do you?" I just smiled. When Dave came out, he looked a bit self-conscious. This is the first time I've ever been this casual around a woman since my wife. But I'll admit, I'm really looking forward to spending time with Serena. She's definitely someone I connect with. They joined the hot tub together, laughing and talking, clearly enjoying each other's company. The energy was light and hopeful. Watching them together, Bobby turned to me and said, "You know, I think Serena really has waited for him all these years. I hope it works out for them." Then she looked at me. "How about we get some rest too?" "Sounds good," I said. She gathered the glasses, and we headed inside. I used the radio to notify the security duty officer that Serena and Dave would be staying over. I told him I was activating the perimeter alarms. After checking the video monitors one last time, we headed to bed. Bobby turned on the TV, and we sat with our untouched drinks, just enjoying the quiet moment. "I feel more comfortable with you than I thought I would," she said softly. "Same here," I replied. "What do you think this means?" I leaned over, hugged her, and whispered, "I love you too, Bobby." She began to cry, quietly at first, then more deeply. She held me tightly, not letting go for a long time. Finally, she looked up at me with a trembling smile. "I love you, Chad. Danny told me to trust you, to love you freely like I loved him. I'm here with all my heart." We held each other close, the bond between us stronger than words. We fell asleep in each other's arms saying I love you. I kept thinking, wow, this has been fast. Can she really love me as much as I've fallen for her? Will this last? Everything I thought was, yes, yes, yes. Morning came at almost 6, but it came peacefully. We woke up, kissed and made love again, quickly but sweetly. We showered together before she went to her room to get her clothes and had to wake up the couple in there. While everyone got ready, I called for breakfast and was finished dressing by the time the bellhop arrived. The 5 of us ate, enjoying each other's company. Serena said to Bobby and me, "We'll stay at my house tonight. Thanks for giving us a start." Dave said, "I think this is my last move. I'm here to stay. Perhaps I'll be here with the marshal's service to stay too." Serena had a big smile on her face. Bobby said, "Chad and I decided, without saying, that we were made for each other too." The duty guy gasped. "Really, Bobby? Is this the guy that we've been hoping you would find?" "Yeah, I feel it. Danny seemed to talk to me, telling me to follow this guy wherever he goes. I'm following. I'm happy for you, Bobby. We'll miss having you as safe one." I interrupted, who said she wasn't going to be safe one anymore. The duty guy said, "It's going to be tough doing that, and you working in the service." I smiled and hugged Bobby to me. "I'll bet we figure it out. Besides, what better safe house than with a couple that are both deputy marshals?" I hadn't thought of that. You're right. That might be a good thing, and it sure would confuse anybody looking for someone. Serena and Dave left for the office while Bobby and I waited to be summoned. We watched the required module until it was complete. We hurriedly took the test while the information was fresh, then sat back thinking it was getting close to lunch. The radio crackled, summoning us to call in. Bobby called Serena, who transferred her to Howard. Bobby's face went from a smile to a frown and said, "Okay, we'll be over in a few minutes." "How long ago were the decoys over there?" "Okay, we're on our way." We checked that we had all our gear and went out to tell the duty guy we were going to the office. He called downstairs and told us to hold a minute. The 3 of us were looking at all of the video screens at once when we saw a bellhop get off the 10th floor, pushing a cart. We didn't think anything about it until the bellhop came back pushing the cart. Only this time the bellhop had his hat on kind of crooked, and we noticed the pants were dragging the ground. Bobby said the guy's hair changed color. He knew that the elevator wouldn't stop at the penthouse floor, so he went down to the kitchen floor and called the penthouse elevator from there. As the guy was waiting for the elevator, all 3 of us pulled our weapons, checking to make sure there was a round in the chamber. We watched as he pushed a button and were surprised that he had pushed the roof button. Our duty guy called down, advising the downstairs people what was up. He said they were sending people to the floor below us to come up to our level. We saw them board an elevator while watching the penthouse elevator passing our floor heading for the roof. The guy in the elevator lifted the cover from the food on the cart and took a piece of the food and sampled it. Once on the roof, the guy walked straight to the railing over our patio and brought out a small line that he attached to the railing, then went over the side. Bobby and I said we were going to wait for the guy inside. Our duty guy said he would have the others come in as soon as they arrived. We didn't even bother closing the door. We just walked to each side of the sliding door to wait. Bobby reached up and flipped the lock off so the guy would find it open. She shrugged her shoulders and mouthed, "Why mess up the new glass?" The guy landed on the patio and was messing with something out there before trying the door. Just as he opened the door, the team from downstairs was coming in the penthouse door. Both had surprised looks on their faces. Our man made a stupid mistake. He went for a gun. 7 handguns went off at the same time, propelling the guy backward. When he seemed to be still functioning, the team leader from downstairs and I both fired at the same time, putting 1, or 2 in this case, between the guy's eyes. Finito. The duty guy from our floor said, "I saw him do something to the jacuzzi. We better get that tested quickly." Bobby went back to the video wall and opened it. She scrolled back on the patio tape. We watched the guy land on the patio. He went to the jacuzzi and opened a bottle from his pants pocket, poured the contents into the tub, and put the bottle back into his pocket. The leader was about to go through the guy's pockets, and I suggested, "Why don't you get some gloves? This guy is wearing gloves, and we don't know what was in that bottle. Let's call the cleaning people and get them rolling. We also need a hazmat, hazardous material, unit to check what that bottle had in it." I looked at our duty guy and asked, "You can control our elevator, right?" He nodded. "Can you keep the car from moving or keep a door from opening?" He nodded again. I asked then, "Next time, we'll trap whoever is in the car until we can be prepared for whatever someone has planned when we open the door. We might even want to put some kind of gas that can be released in the car to knock someone out. Let's think it all through, have it done, and make some plans." Bobby asked the team leader, "How come you recognized a problem but didn't stop the guy downstairs?" "We didn't want to tip our hand down there. We think there is another one down there watching. Now that we have this under control, we'll take that guy and question him." He called on his radio telling the downstairs men to take the man down there. He then sent 2 of his men to look for the bellhop that had been replaced. "Okay, Bobby, let's head to the office." Before we could even get to the door, Howard's voice came over the radio. "Hold wherever you are. Hold, and take cover, please." Back in 10. We walked back into the penthouse, just standing off to the side, when a helicopter came down to eye level with the patio. Every man there dove for cover. I was watching a guy that was strapped and holding what looked like an RPG launcher. Rocket-propelled grenade. Instead of waiting for him to make up his mind to fire, I put a round into his head, making him jerk back and fire the RPG up into the air. One of the team guys said, "Oh shit, don't shoot the pilot unless you think he can fire on us. That thing will make a mess on the ground." The helicopter suddenly lifted straight up, banked, and headed north. There was a military helicopter less than 100 yards behind it following. Our team leader radioed Howard and advised him of the action. Howard said, "Have the guests come visit?" We rode down in the elevator with a team guy who went with us all the way to the federal building. We waved our badges and went upstairs to the office. Howard and John met us at the door, with Dave watching from behind. Howard asked, "Did you shoot somebody again?" Bobby answered for me. He body shot a guy wearing armor, along with me and all 5 team members. When the guy stopped staggering backward, the team leader put 1 in the guy's head. John asked, looking concerned, "You didn't finish it?" Bobby answered again. Chad's round hit the guy's head at the same time, but the team leader should get credit for the kill. John smiled and said, "So he shall." Dave was behind John, smiling. Howard said, "We think that they will throw everything they have at us in the next 24 hours. DC said that from their intelligence, this is a last gasp effort. I want you 2 to go back to hotel, take Dave with you. Eat, go to the gym, and take a nap for as long as you can. I want you both to be rested so you can stay up tonight. We might even have you spend the night in the ready bunks. Dave here will watch you till 5. Then we're putting 2 of our teams on you, plus a bureau team. DC says nothing is to get within 100 yards of you, period. Chad, before you go, Serena has not fingerprinted you yet. The Corps is reluctant, as usual, to give us your prints because you're still alive. Dave has to have his done as well. We need to file them in our database. We also need a DNA swab, all for ID purposes. I went to see Serena, who had the card and swab kit out for me. We did the prints and swab, and I went to the head to wash my hands and take a leak. When I came out, Howard said the hazmat team said the guy had put some kind of radical poison into the tub, so it was being drained and given a steam cleaning, an acid bath, and a reseal. He said, "Sorry, no hot tub for a couple of days." John said, "Come to my room, you can use mine." Bobby and I both laughed. The radio cracked again, and Howard was informed they had the helicopter on the ground, and that a team had been dispatched to another location. I looked at Howard and said, "Why are they still trying? Their jig is up, their operation is done. Why would they be trying to get revenge for something they can't even do anything about anymore?" John said, "They put an open contract out on you for $1 million. We think that most anyone who tries now is a money seeker. This last group should be all of the organized crime guys that try. We're putting the word out that everyone who's tried to date is pushing up daisies and that the people who had offered the contract were now dead, not in custody, dead. They tried to resist a raid and died. Word will probably get out by tonight or tomorrow. Until then, the crazies will be coming hot and heavy." Bobby said, "We need to find a cocoon and just hole up." Howard said, "You're not hunted. Bobby, if you want, we can replace you. Not on your life, Buster. This guy is my charge, and I'll see him through this." Then under her breath she said, "For the rest of his life." Howard did a double take at her, then smiled, "Really?" Bobby blushed, but said loud enough for all to hear, "Really?" Howard was nodding his head, smiling. "Go rest up so you two are alert tonight. Get Dave away from Serena and go." I told Howard that Dave could stay and stay with us later. All we needed was an escort across the street to stay within orders. John said, "Come on, I'm not too good to do escort duty. Let's get you secure." We crossed the street without any trouble. We thanked John, radioed our duty guy upstairs, and rang for the elevator. Bobby and I were in the classic back-to-back position, watching in all directions to make sure no one was making unusual movements. The downstairs guy walked over to us and said with a smile, "Perfect, absolutely perfect. We should have a film crew for you two. You're so damn perfect the way you're protecting each other. It needs to be on film." The elevator arrived, and we stepped in while the guy outside the elevator called upstairs. He didn't need to, as the man up there was watching us on the video monitors. When we stepped off the elevator, we both said to the duty guy at once, "Are you hungry?" He laughed. "Every time you two have tried to eat today, it's been too busy. They have a great grouper sandwich today. Have one of those and relax. You two are supposed to take a long nap to be ready for tonight. If what they say is right, you could be in for a long night." I said quietly, "I have an idea on how to avoid all the problems. I'll tell the evening guy about my idea." Bobby looked at me, and I said, "Let's just get some food. I'm starving." We ordered and food was at the door shortly. The man wasn't even allowed in the door. The duty guy made him get back on the elevator and go back down before he knocked on the door and had us take the cart in. He said, "New orders, no one but service and bureau people in the room. Shouldn't be a big deal. Have a good lunch, enjoy." After eating, we lay on my bed and were soon asleep. We slept till about 5 and decided to dress more comfortably. We both put on jeans and dark t-shirts, with our shoulder holsters in place. I had the neat sport coat with patches on the elbows and Bobby had a jacket that looked good and covered her. She asked, "Shouldn't we wear body armor?" I thought about it a few minutes then agreed. "Yeah, that's what the stuff is for." We put the armor on under our shirts and were ready. John came to the door and said, "We're eating in my penthouse this evening. I thought the less exposed you were the better." This night, we had a great salad before dinner, but no drinks. We had a fancy chicken dish that was delicious. I think it was scallopini. Whatever it was deserved my praise. When we were done, I suggested we all go back to my penthouse and watch the monitors for a few minutes. There, I turned all of them off except the ones that were downstairs. I began counting agents, marshals, deputies, and Tampa officers. You know, if I were a bad guy and wanted to get up here, I would just walk right up to the desk and rent a room for 2 or 3 days. To make sure I was accepted, I would go in and out the doors and elevators often. I would use all of the facilities and generally be seen by everyone. Once I had all my timing down, I would find an easy way to get on the elevator and blast my way past the duty guys and begin dismantling the room until I had all living things taken care of. How would you get past the duty guys? For $1 million, I'd kill them. As each area was neutralized, I would work my way up until I finished what I had started. What do you bet that there are at least 2, maybe more, assassins registered in the hotel right now, laughing at the reckless shit that has been happening? I looked around. If you think you can protect me easier in the office than here, think of just the 2 guys downstairs with no backup. A bad guy walks in, bang, bang, and rides the elevator to the office. From there, he kicks down the steel door and methodically uses about 50 well-placed rounds to hunt us down. John said, "So you're saying there's no way to protect you?" "There is, but not in this urban environment. What we need are foxholes, some automatic weapons with defined firing positions, claymores, and an anti-personnel perimeter alarm." John laughed. "You're right. That would be impenetrable." Howard asked, "Where would we set up something like that?" "How about we go where it's already set up? I'll bet I could call and get Bobby and me a nice, comfortable bed for the night, with enough guards to protect all of us if we needed to. John, here is a telephone number that you can call and ask if they can put up 2 people in protective custody for a night. When we get permission to go, we'll make a big deal out of displaying me to everyone. As soon as I'm tucked away, it's over. I can read a book before getting a good night's sleep. You can too. John's second-in-command said, "Damn, that's anticlimactic. Where is this sanctuary you're talking about?" John answered for me, "The Air Force Base. We can stash you in some officers' quarters in the BOQ, and it's over. Let me call." John called the number that was for the commanding officer of Central Command and talked with the man for a few minutes. He thanked the man and said, "We'll be leaving in 10 minutes. I'm staying out there with these 2 just to be on the safe side. Plus some Marines from CENTCOM are being detailed for guard duty. I feel better already. Let's move. What do you need to take with you, Chad and Bobby?" "Just a shaving kit, boss. Bobby has an overnight kit in her purse." "Let's roll then." Howard had our armored rolling stock brought to the front of the hotel. About 5 Tampa cars pulled around us. Not one of the officers was looking up, and that's where the threat would come from. I asked them to open the rear doors of the car we were riding in, then told Bobby, "Go, get in the car." When she was in the car, one of the duty guys said, "Let me help you. Don't be an idiot. Stay right here." There was a neat steel plate that slid in place for wheelchair patrons that would need a ramp. They would slide the steel plate out and lay it in place and push the patron up or down. A patron could use the main door and just glide right in, but this was the private entrance. I told everyone to stand clear, slid the steel plate out from its holder, and swung it over my head. Balancing the thing on my head, I staggered to the car, and what do you know? Before I had gone 2 steps, 3 shots rang out, with rounds ricocheting off the steel plate. All the cops suddenly were looking up. Another set of 3 hit the plate, and I was almost at the car. As I was right at the car, there was firing from 3 different locations that all hit the plate. I sure hope none got lucky and hit my fingers. The idiot cops were firing up in the air with their guns. The odds of hitting anything with a pistol at that range were really remote. I slid into the car with the steel plate over the top of the car, but sticking out far enough that there wasn't an angle into the car. I pulled the door closed, and a few more rounds were deflected by the car. I wondered whether, with all of the law there, if they would catch the shooters. Bobby was petrified. "You knew that was going to happen, didn't you?" "I've been thinking how I would do this and how I could be prepared in the event the target did something like we're doing." "Why didn't you let me protect you?" "Because you couldn't." We waited about 5 minutes at the curb until John and a duty guy came out and picked up the steel plate and put it where it belonged. John came out without fear and climbed into the front seat. "I'm not congratulating you on a good plan, as you exposed yourself too much. If you knew you were going to be targeted, we could have used a decoy. But then you did get the maneuver accomplished without any casualties, plus you located the shooters. I'll bet there are a bunch of pissed-off people." Bobby shivered and hugged my arm. 3 service cars and 5 police cars with sirens blaring headed out of downtown toward Bayshore Boulevard. The police officers kept us moving right along and ended the noise at the gate to the base. The air police guards on the gate had been advised we were coming. They checked all our identifications and led us to the BOQ. Bachelor officers' quarters. We could have stayed in an airman barracks and would be just as safe. It's not that the base was impenetrable, but it was damn near. My other thought would have been the base hospital where I had spent so much time. We only kept our driver and John, and were all shown into rooms. Bobby and I were lucky to have adjoining rooms with a connecting door. We had some ice cream from a vending machine before we all said goodnight. Minutes later, Bobby was in bed with me. I had on shorts and she had on a gown. In the event someone came in to check on us, we would be decent. We slept like babies. When we got up in the morning, we cleaned up quickly in the separate men's and women's latrines before we met John and the driver for breakfast. We walked over to the officers' open mess and bought some great military breakfasts. I stuffed, having the opportunity to have good biscuits and sausage gravy, along with a bunch of eggs and potatoes. The coffee was bad as always, but it was hot, black, and strong. John looked at me and said, "Now what? If what you told me is true, we should be free and clear today. If intelligence says there's still a threat, I'll just stay right here. I'll make the hospital measure me for another leg or something. Bobby can go to work and I'll go to the library." Our driver said, "You're too comfortable. It isn't cool to tease death." John about cracked up. "Son, this Marine has seen so much death and been confronted so many times with the decision to save his men and die, or save himself. He doesn't even think about it. Be in real combat for a week or 2 at a time, then tell me about comfort factors. This man can eat using a guy he just gutted for a table. He can sleep, not necessarily soundly, but still sleep with mortars falling around him at the rate of 2 a minute. What he did last night wasn't for show. It was to protect all of us as he felt he was the only target. He was, and he proved it." The driver still looked at me warily. John used his cell phone and called DC for intelligence. He heard from them that several people had been picked up last night as a result of the sniper fire. He asked for their opinion, listening, nodding. He smiled. Let's get our shit, thank our hosts, and go to work. We'll go to the hotel to change clothes, and you, Chad, can start taking duty. You still have some accrued incident time, so if you have other things to do, go do them. I told John that I would discuss it with Howard and that I needed to make some decisions about my employment. John looked at me in understanding and said, I hope you stay with us. He looked at Bobby and said, I would like you to stay with us as well. There isn't too much duty where you two can work together, but if you find something you can do together and need help with the transfer, call me. Bobby smiled. We didn't put anything over on anyone, did we? Something clicked with you two. You both exhibited all the signs. I think you're a good match. Be sure before you make it permanent. This is a crazy way to make a living. Bobby, you already know that. Bobby nodded but smiled. We drove back to hotel, with John saying he was going to sign out of our service office and take his crew home. He said they all had enough good stories for the rest of the office and cubicle rats back in DC. Bobby and I went up to the room, saying hi to some relaxed duty people, and changed clothes. I told Bobby, I think we'll be staying in our new place tonight. I have to close my other apartment and pick up my bike, but that shouldn't be a big deal. Let's go to the office. We walked to the office and were greeted by everyone. Howard said, after worrying about you two so much. Last night was anticlimactic. Good idea, Chad. Not cool doing the stunt you did with the steel plate though. You're forgiven because it worked. We picked up all the shooters, plus we profiled a bunch out at the airport, and have about 20 more in custody. They're bemoaning that the big shots who offered the reward are all dead. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, you know the story. Howard looked right at Bobby. So Bobby, you ready for your new place? Next Howard looked at me and said, decision time. My young friend, I've done everything I can to convince you to stay. If you do, there's a good future here for you. Have any idea yet? Bobby looked at Howard and said, there's one more inducement we can use, Howard. I want to make this guy safe too. We're supposed to have a two-person team at the safe house anyway. He can still pull duty a lot of the time when we're not hosting, and what better cover than a service couple? How about it? Howard and John waved at both of us to follow them as they headed toward his office. Once we were all sitting, relaxed, Howard said, Bobby, Danny's been gone a long time now, and you've become a valuable member of our team. When needed, you've pulled duty for sick guys. You've even pulled some air duty. Up until Wild Bill showed up, you've never exhibited any sign of interest in anyone. The guys that have been at the office since Danny left have all looked after you closely, hoping you would have this opportunity. I guess something I want you to think about is, do you really want to have another relationship with someone in the service? Hell, even the bureau can be hairy sometimes. There's always that chance that either or both of you could be lost. Bobby, you know what that's like. The brief courtship you two have had has been unusual to say the least. This is what I'd like to do. If you stay on, Chad, I'll assign you as Safe 2 with Bobby as leader. Your temporary lieutenant's position will probably go away, but you haven't had any special office yet anyway. While you are working out of the safe unit, I want you to go back to the employment office and work there temporarily. I want you to observe the transition of supervision and be watchful of any new schemes that might surface. You'll work closely with the bureau, who will pick up half your tab while this undercover is going on. You don't get to double dip on salaries. Your employment office salary will be diverted to the marshal's service budget while you take care of this assignment. If the safe unit has to host, you might have to take a leave of absence from the employment people, but Ms. White will understand. She's happy with this arrangement and is actually the one to suggest it. So, this will give you a chance to be a deputy marshal as well as see how you like the employment division. Give all of it a trial and decide in a month or so. Bobby was very excited saying, come on, Chad, let's get our stuff and go see the new unit. We can swing by your old apartment and get the stuff you had there. Let's see if there is still an attraction between us in a mundane, monotonous world. I shook hands with Howard saying, thanks Howard. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm leaning toward wanting to stay with the service, about 98% sure. This is a hell of an organization. I like the camaraderie, the closeness between deputy marshals. This is a great place to work. Should I call in the morning? Don't call in until next Monday. I'll work on setting your schedule up with Ms. White. Both of you are off until then. Enjoy. We left the office and went back to the hotel to pick up our clothes. I stopped at the gift shop to purchase a suitcase before going up to the room. It only took 10 minutes to pack our stuff and head to the garage. We were both still a little jumpy and overly cautious, checking all the sightlines constantly. The garage attendant said, we did a bomb check on your car this morning, Bobby. Everything is clean. Bobby drove out of the garage and said, do you want to clean out your apartment now or later? Let's do it now and get it over with. I need to pay off the girl that has been watching the place and who is doing my laundry. Bobby looked at me and asked, is she any good? Yeah, She does an excellent job. She does laundry to pay her bills. She has a guy, but he's pretty transient. He's not here a lot. Right now he is, but she still needs the cash. I had an arrangement with her that if I bought the food, she would fix it. She would share meals with me, giving her a couple of healthy meals a day. When her guy showed up, he began eating with me too. I still thought it was a good deal to get a well-cooked meal and have my lunches made for me for the price of the raw materials. Sounds like it was a good deal. What will she do if you're gone? Don't know, but she's a survivor. Bobby said, how about we both use her for our clothes? We can drop them off in the morning and pick them up in the afternoon a couple of times a week. We'll do our own towels and bedclothes, even our own underwear. For the rest of our clothes, it would be nice to have someone else launder and iron them for us. I said, we'll ask her to see what she thinks. We pulled up to the apartment to find a service car parked in front of the apartment. Inside, a duty guy was watching TV. Hey, Chad, looks like this one is winding down. I'm surprised you're still here. I figured they would have had you pulled by now. The duty guy said, Howard and the Bureau have something they want to do out here, so they're keeping the place. So far maintenance has been out changing around some things. Hey, that surely cooks up a storm. Bart is a little strange, but so far he's been a decent guy to be around. This is decent duty out here since you have the food deal. I bring whatever list Shirley makes, and she cooks. Hell, she's even doing my laundry for me. She charges real fair. Tough little girl, isn't she? At that second, Shirley walked in the back door. The duty guy said, speak of the devil. Shirley was excited to see me and gave me a hug. I've missed you being around. You were kind of stabilizing around here. I think Bart even misses you. All these other guys that have been around are okay. Are you coming home now? Is everything okay now? Are you okay? I smiled at Shirley and said, no, I'm here to clean out my clothes and stuff. The bad stuff that was going on seems to be over now, so I'm fine. These guys are going to stay on, so the food deal is going to continue, at least for a while. I took Bobby's hand and pulled her to me. Shirley, this is Bobby. I've kind of fell for this lady, and we're going to try living with each other for a while. The duty guy exclaimed, no shit, Bobby, really? Bobby just grinned and nodded. Shirley said, she sure is a big one. She reminds me of a bigger, sleeker version of Millie. Bobby grinned and said, Millie's my sister. Shirley said, figures this guy would hook up with someone 6 or 7 inches taller than he is and has over 100 pounds on him. I don't know why, but I've always figured him as thinking bigger is better. Bobby said, I think he likes the idea that if his leg screws up, I can carry him. Shirley laughed. There is that. I asked, Shirley, would you consider still doing my laundry and also doing Bobby's washing and ironing of her outerwear? Shirley exclaimed excitedly, hell yes, the more the merrier. I'm getting a good bunch of customers. It'll change all the time, but I'll have enough to pay my bills and feed me if Bart takes off again. He's being pretty much a homebody lately and has been making me happy. But yes, just bring it by in the morning and I'll have them done up in the afternoon. I could use some extra hangers though. If you have any of those pants hangers, you know, the ones with that cardboard round thing to hang the pants on, bring them. I need those. Let me get my stuff. There isn't much, I said. I put my clothes into my duffel bag and took the few toiletry things that were in the bathroom. Looking at the place, I realized how high on the hog I had been living since my sudden departure from here. I loaded my stuff in the expedition and came back in. I'm going to take the bike. I've missed riding. This evening, I'm taking Bobby out for a spin. We might even stop in at Jonah's so the sisters can visit. Bobby said, Jonah says that I might not be all that welcome at the bar. A lot of guys are put off by the law. I laughed. Who's going to tell them? The only person to know would be Jonah and your sister. We'll just be another couple with a big lady. The duty guy said, a real big lady. I put in, a beautiful, big lady. Okay, you two, don't make me out to be a freak. Come on, Chad, get your bike and let's go see our new place. I said goodbye to Shirley, promising to stop by and see her. The bike was dirty but started easily. I wiggled the bike back and forth with the gas caps off to see how much gas was in the tanks. Luckily, they were still pretty full. In short order, I was following Bobby out to the old Carrollwood area where the new place was. When we came up to it, workers were coming out of the house, and a couple of duty people were standing in the garage. Bobby pulled straight in, and I pulled the bike in all the way to the rear of the large garage. There was still room to fit a long car inside. The duty guys came over to check out the bike, but I told them to wait till I had it cleaned up so it would at least be pretty. The two guys gave us a tour of the house. It had 4 guest suites that contained a sitting area or living room, a bedroom, and a large bath. If a guest or couple didn't feel like associating with others, they would be comfortable in their suite. The sitting area had a small table for meals or games. The house had a large living room, a large family room off the kitchen, similar to the last house, and included a security video wall. There were 2 additional bedrooms that could be used for additional guards or duty people if necessary. A large room with all of the gym equipment, and a large storage room, this time with hangers and shelves for extra clothes towels, and toiletries. Then there was the host's suite, which included a huge bedroom that included a sitting area and a large bathroom. There was a large video wall that was easily seen from the bed, as well as the sitting area. The backyard was enclosed in a 10-foot-high concrete block wall. It was very decorative, having large pillars with a decorative cap every 12 feet. The back of the house was similar to what Bobby had before. A large covered enclosed patio that included a nice-sized jacuzzi, and out from there was a very attractive pool in a screen cage. Beyond the large pool cage was a nice-sized yard, much larger than what Bobby had before. The duty guys kept pointing out security measures and took us out front. Across the street, there was grass for about 50 feet, with a dense wooded area beyond. As we approached the tree line, one of the radios began to beep. We were shown the various radar sensor points that worked only on larger objects. The duty guy said that a wild pig had set it off already, but there wasn't a panic as they were able to pick it up on video right away. They also said the security sensors began more than 100 feet back into the woods. Once back across the street, the guys helped us move our clothes into the big walk-in closet in the bedroom. The one guy said, "Glad you're not even pretending by having Chad use one of the other bedrooms." Bobby said, "No need to pretend, we've pretty much committed to each other. Part of that is to be sure to tell all our friends we have found each other." Both guys gave Bobby a hug, saying how happy they were for her. Both of them also shook my hand and warned me that I had best treat their Bobby very well. I told them they didn't have anything to worry about. They had Bobby followed by me, sign off on the house and all the equipment and arms stored in the bedroom. The only new furniture was the extra stuff used in the new suites. As the guys left, we closed up the garage and secured the front. We checked out the new radios with the sensor warnings built in. They were a little smaller than the last ones, but had all of the regular and tactical frequencies. Bobby looked through the refrigerator and was happy to see it already had a good selection of vegetables, along with a couple of nice steaks. I suggested we save the steaks for tomorrow and go out for an early ride. We could dine on junk food. I asked her if hamburgers and chili sounded good. Bobby nearly squealed with joy. I told her to hold that thought, as I was going to push the bike out the big double back door and wash it. I couldn't figure why they had the big double door in the garage until I noticed a large garden tractor mower in the corner. Nice. Once the bike was cleaned up, sparkling the way it ought to be, I pushed it back into the garage. Inside the house, I found Bobby already in her jeans and t-shirt, wearing a large loose denim jacket. I put my rig back on and donned my denim jacket. We checked each other out to make sure our hardware wasn't obvious. If someone looked for it, they would see we were packing, but both of us were carrying our identification. We were not supposed to go anywhere unarmed. When we first started out, it took me a little while to get used to the extra weight on the bike. To get accustomed to it, we rode north for a bit, then doubled back, taking the long way around to a steak and shake we wanted to visit. The food was great, and we enjoyed a malted milkshake together. Bobby joked about gaining weight, and I responded that there would be more of her to appreciate. That earned a smile. Once we were back on the road, I felt comfortable riding two up with Bobby. We felt in sync, moving together as one. Walking into Jonah's place caused a lot of loud whistles and cheers. Jonah, grinning, came over for a warm hug from his sister-in-law. He mentioned that he had just left Millie in the back office and suggested we go surprise her. Millie was clearly caught off guard. She was partially dressed, quickly getting herself together. It was immediately obvious what had been happening, and the room had an unmistakable atmosphere. Millie, still a bit dazed, looked up and smiled when she saw us. The two big girls shared a joyful hug, happy to see each other. Jonah returned with us, and as he approached Millie, she said, "No more, Jonah. I think I'm all worn out. Go get me a Coke or something. I need the caffeine." We spent some time with them in the bar, had a couple of beers, shared our new address, and they promised to visit soon, especially after hearing about our fun plans for the jacuzzi and pool. It took us a while to ride home since we intentionally went the wrong way, taking a wide arc to enjoy the wind in our faces. No rush, no loud noises, just peaceful serenity. When we got home, Bobby used her remote to open the garage door, and I parked the bike inside. We went through the routine of setting up the front and perimeter alarms. After taking a warm shower, we settled into bed and enjoyed a quiet, intimate moment together, drifting off to sleep contentedly. The phone rang. I looked at the clock and saw it was right at 2:30 in the morning. I reached for the phone and saw it was line 2, the host line. I said safe 2. The voice on the other end said, "We have a couple that will be transported either tomorrow or the next day. They need to be secure tonight until at least noon tomorrow. They're on the way. When the car approaches, they will radio." Bobby was already dressing and I dressed as well. We were out in the family room watching the video wall when the radio voice asked us to open up. Bobby assumed a position that allowed her a view of the garage through one of those big security mirrors stores have. I had not noticed it before. All I could do was wait for her to tell me what to do. She said to me, "I know that call by heart from your side of the conversation that I heard. Is this a single or more than one?" The voice said it was a couple. "They'll be here till tomorrow or today, that is, at noon, or it could be as long as another day while they await transport." The car pulled in, and I heard the big door close behind it. Bobby watched intently until I saw the driver reach up and pat the top of the car. Bobby visibly relaxed and opened the door, waving me to come along. We brought the couple in with their limited baggage. The two duty people with them went through their luggage again, but this time with some kind of radio sensor. He said to me, "We always check them once we get to a host, even though we checked them out really good earlier. A beacon could have had a time delay on it, and it's always best to be sure." The couple was young, but obviously had been a couple for a long time. The girl closely followed the guy's lead. We got them settled into a suite and asked them all if they were hungry. The looks we got said, "Oh boy, food." Bobby asked, "How about breakfast? Some steak and eggs, some biscuits and gravy. We'll have it ready in a jiffy." Bobby handed me a box of Bisquick and said, "Make the biscuits. I'll start on thawing the steaks." I had biscuits in the oven in no time at all, and Bobby was grilling steaks in a pan while warming up another for eggs. I made a package of some instant sausage gravy and met her while she was loading the table with steaks and 12.5 fried eggs without one broken yolk. We fed the couple milk and the duty guys milk and coffee. The two guys chatted while we ate, and the couple was quiet. When one of the guys questioned how we were getting along since we had just gotten together, the couple became more interested. They asked us how we got together and told us of their relationship. The girl was the daughter of a mobster father, and the boy was the son of a rival mobster. Both parents were looking for them with anger in their hearts. The service offered to give them new identities in exchange for a bunch of information that wouldn't tell any of the mobsters that their kids had ratted them out. The duty guy said, "We'll just stay. We'll bunk in one of the new rooms. One of us will stay up until morning, then we can both rest while you two are up. Good night, and thanks for the warm meal." We stacked the dishes in the sink and went to bed. Once in bed, Bobby said, "So how do you like our new life? We didn't even get the first night free. That's the way it goes in the service. Do you think you'll want to stay?" I rolled to her, meeting her as she rolled to meet me face to face. "You bet, Bobby. We have to find out if we're a team. I think we are a set." We drifted off to sleep holding each other, dreaming of possibly spending the rest of our lives together. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.